Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Cycle. Today is going to be episode 16, I believe, with our guest CosmosHOSS. Before we bring that up today, though, I don't know if anyone knows the significance of today. Today is the day that Extortion 17 went down. It was the single largest life of special operations members in U.S. history. So if you guys don't know those guys and their stories, look into it if you are interested in hearing about it. The Sean Ryan podcast with DJ Shipley has a segment on it, and just learn those guys' stories and honor them if you haven't. So I will get off my soapbox now, and we will continue on with the episode. But Haas, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to just ask a couple questions and have our little round table like normal. So I'm just going to give, can you give us a brief overview of what brought you into the digital asset space and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, it all began when COVID happened. And selfishly, I don't like to say this, but I guess I will since we're just having this conversation. For my wife and I was honestly, it was one of the best things that's happened to me and her. It allowed me, at the beginning of it, it was crazy, but like I got laid off. It was the first time that I had free time to kind of like do anything really. And my background's in accounting and finance. So I've always loved technology since a child. I've always invested in technology since I could pretty much legally invest in technology. So I kind of understood what crypto was in the background. I was doing a little bit of research, but just didn't have the time and effort to kind of get into it because I like to really get into it when I'm going to invest in certain things or devote time to it. So I kind of got into it, did the traditional Bitcoin, Ethereum, but was using different applications. And I was like, this doesn't seem right. It's real like clunky and fragmented. Like there has to be something better. And I was following a guy on YouTube, and he just like covered all of crypto, and he was real unbiased. I liked his style, not many subscribers, and I got a lot of information out of him. And I asked him, it was around summer of 21. I think it was June, end of June, beginning of July. I said, hey, like outside the top 100, like what's catching your eyes? And he said Osmosis. And for anyone out there listening, like Osmosis was a brand new L1. So it was his own app chain within IBC and Cosmos. So I kind of went over, took a look, started using it. And it was like, wow, this is day and night comparison of because I was used to using Uniswap at the time. I was like, this is a smooth, I always call it customer experience. It was a really good customer experience. So it kind of caught my eye. And then I started going down that rabbit hole of doing a lot of research, understanding what Cosmos is, what the actual founder is. And for anyone listening, like I always suggest to do that before you invest. Like look into the tech, look into the who's the founders, where they went to school or where they didn't go to school or what they're doing, where they started at. Like really understand everything before you just give up your hard-earned money for anything in life. So I kind of did that. Yeah, it was like, and Sonny Agrawal he helped out like with Ethereum. He went to Berkeley. Like the guy listened to some of his podcasts, like we're doing, and I was like, man, this guy's really smart. Like, let me check into it a little bit more. And as I did this, I was like, it opened up my eyes of what Cosmos it really was. And it was like all these app chains that just like flow together. And it's just like, to me, reminded me of the internet. When you and I go on a website, we go to another one, we don't necessarily care that it's pinging off this server and that server. We just know it's going to work. Until I found Cosmos, I didn't get that feeling in crypto. I was like, this is just really early technology. And we still are early, but it was super early in my opinion. And it was like, no one's going to understand any of this. And so when that happened, it kind of really focused my point of like, all right, I'm really going to do like the dive into this. And I just spent so many hours. I'm talking like thousands of hours of research into all of IBC, Tendermint, like every single facet of how this technology works from the ground up and why. And I found that like all these people that built Cosmos essentially helped out with Ethereum and seen like how it couldn't scale. And essentially most EVMs that are L2 are using basically it's called Tendermint, which is like the consensus mechanism. They're using that, and it's like modular. You can kind of alter it to fit your own settings, so to speak. And like everyone's heard of Polygon. They're using it. I think AVAX is using it. Binance Smart Chain is using it. Like everyone's basically using it. So I'm like, well, if everyone's using this, these guys are onto something. And I've always invested into like the not sexy investments and like the things that are building. I like to call them like railways or highways or sky, like whatever that basically connect everything together. And that's kind of what I found with Cosmos. And ever since, I spend majority of my time, not all of my time, because I am a crypto maxi. I invest in a bunch of different things, but I spend most of my time in Cosmos.
It's almost like it's a thoroughfare on the highway. You know what I mean? Like it's in Texas we call it the HOV lane, but it's like this entire lane that's just entirely, you go as fast as you want as long as you don't get pulled over for being something too stupid. But it's kind of how I describe that as.
Yeah. I can say as a Cosmos user, I use a lot of different ecosystems and blockchains, but comparing them all, Cosmos by far does have the best user interface. Like there's you almost can't even compare it to anything else because it's one of the only ones that I've used where someone who is not necessarily tech heavy or has a real big background in this type of stuff can get on and use it as if they were using the internet, just like Haas said. It's the only one out there that's like that. So, I know other chains are starting to compete and get on the same page with the UI. But I don't know if any of you guys have used Osmos or got involved with any of the different projects in Cosmos, but every single one of them have just really seamless user interfaces. And I think that's one of the big things they pride themselves on.
Yeah, I mean, what Joby just said, I totally agree with. And not trying to come off as like a maxi or anything, but you think about everything that we're using in Web 2, right? It's all applications. You have a Starbucks app, you have your whatever app you like to use. It's all applications. So this is basically the premise of Cosmos. It's the same thing. It's called the app chain thesis. So what it is, people are building their own chains, their own L1s, and they don't have to rent. It's like if you are an investor, would you rather own your own land or rent from someone? And basically you have a landlord that maybe the landlord's not a good landlord, or maybe the landlord just wants to sell it and then you have to move out, or he wants to jack up the rent. And this doesn't happen in Cosmos. Everyone's kind of conditioned in this space right now that you have to have, say, like Ethereum or for gas. And what the beauty of Cosmos is, it's so decentralized that in theory, you don't even need Atom for anything. Like if you wanted to go on osmosis, you could just go on osmosis and they pretty much accept everything as gas as long as it's like IBC enabled, which is like, I don't know at this time, like 70 different L1s. They're all their own chains, their own. And what's cool about it is, you have your own governance. You can put how many validators you want. You can change, like it's modular. It's like a car. If the car needs fixed, it doesn't just, you don't have to fix every single part. You can kind of plug and chug. And the way I always like to visualize like Cosmos is like a galaxy, right? And imagine if every human spoke the same language since day one. Like crypto may have happened like 100 years ago because there was no fragmentation and friction with communication barriers through all the humans that have been on planet Earth. And with Cosmos, everyone speaks the same language. So like it's like you're like a citizen, right? You can go over to this other planet, call it, and you're a citizen. You could take all your resources over. You don't need anyone's permission, and it's just going to work. Like you don't have these wrapped derivative tokens. Like everything is native. Like all these assets from one blockchain to the other are just like native currencies, native everything. Like everything's just like synchronized. And that's what like if you look up the word like Cosmos, that's kind of what it is. It's like harmonious. Like everything's just like ubiquitous, like boom, it's all together. And that's kind of like how the internet is now. Like you don't need permission to go on one website and go, oh, you know what, let me do this and do that. Like you just type it in and just go over to it, or just you have your iPhone and you just use an application and it just works. You don't care why it works.
You know what it almost sounds like to me, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you're familiar with Star Wars, it kind of sounds like intergalactic basic. It's a language that everyone in the Star Wars universe speaks and understands. Everyone's got their own thing, but everyone has that one thing in common. Is that kind of fair to say?
I mean, I would say that's very fair to say. And in fact, when I worked permissionless last May in 22, it was like a non-IBC event, but CosmosHOSS at the time had a booth, and I was actually working with them. And people would come over, and we had like a beautiful setup. We had like amazing merchandise, like cool gear. Everyone would come over, and if someone would ask the simple question of what is osmosis, I knew instantly they didn't understand anything about Cosmos or IBC or just like anything, right? So that was one of the ways that I would explain it to them. I would go, you see that booth over there? That's a AVAX booth. You see that? I can't remember if it was Solana or Moonbeam or whatever. I say, you see that? That's that. But they're speaking different languages, so they need a translator. Like someone needs to go over there and say, hey, this is what they're saying, and this is what that person's saying, and go back and forth because they don't know what one another is saying. But I said, imagine if they just all like I said before, like all humans spoke the same language. Like I honestly feel like crypto probably would have happened 100 years ago, because now you think about it, we're all connected. Pretty much, I don't know, 8 billion people. We all have smartphones. We're kind of all in this game now. Like everyone can participate in the beauty of crypto and stuff. So like that's how I kind of view it. And no offense to these other blockchains, like I do like a lot of these other chains that are doing different things that are non-IBC compatible, but they're trying to do things by addition. Like Cosmos from the day one has like built the roads, right? Like when people came over to America, it was like cobblestone roads, and then you had to build the highways, you had to build the infrastructure, and that's what Cosmos has done since day one. Literally, that's all they're working on, and it's not sexy, right? Like, and they don't really get a lot of VC money, and they're just like, we're going to build all this infrastructure, and you could do whatever you want, Ethereum or Solana or whatever, but you're going to want to tap into this one day because it's the future of how all these things are going to connect. Like, we don't want to live in a world where you go to a store, right? You go to a grocery store, you're like, okay, well, I got to pull out this wallet, but then I want to go over to that store over there, I got to pull out this other wallet. Like, that's not how the future is going to be. It's going to be like everything's going to be synchronized. And I think Cosmos, in my opinion, if crypto is going to work like we all believe it's going to work, it has to be an integral part of that, like, call it the new internet or whatever. It's going to have to be a layer of this new internet. There's just no way around it. Like, there's just too many bright human beings in this space that are building just like all these roads or whatever you want to call it. So that's kind of why I spend my time on it. I'm not saying that other things aren't going to succeed, because I believe a lot of things will, but I think that they're all going to need to tap into this one way or another.
Yeah, we've had so many guests on that, well, not so many, but we've had a lot of guests on. And what I think the general consensus among us is that as this continues, it's like the S curve, right? It's going to be more and more adopted. And there is no one fits best for everyone, right? Some people are going to want to maximize speed over security. Some people are going to want to, so it's going to be super fast, but not as secure. Some people are going to want to maximize security, but not speed. So that's going to be slower. You have to look at what the layer one is, or what the application you're building on, and figure out if that works best for you. So the people arguing about whatever is best has never made sense to me. And it kind of sounds like Cosmos is the Davy and Crockett of crypto, where they just kind of went west and said, come on and join us and use our maps if you want. If you don't, then fine, you're going to suffer for it.
Hey, I like that. I'm gonna have to use that. I like that. Well, yeah, it kind of reminds me of when settlers came over to America and people started to buy up the land by the railways, because like they're like, all right, one day someone's gonna have to build a store here or a shop, or so this land's gonna be very valuable. And I almost look at that like at a Cosmos in that same realm of things, because the beauty of it is, if someone comes over and wants to buy that particular parcel of land, they can do whatever they want. They don't need anyone's permission. If you want to tap into different aspects of Cosmos and say, hey, we want to like build this app that connects to this other app and do all this, you can. Or hell, you could buy the land and say, I don't even want to be IBC enabled. I just want to do this. So it gives you so much flexibility. And like the fact that you could take, it's like a blueprint. You could take this blueprint, but you can alter, you have permission to alter the blueprint to however you see fit. If you want to build like the fastest blockchain, you can go ahead and do it. If you want to build something that's like slower and real secure, because like what you're trying to build your application for doesn't need to be real fast. It might be, you know what, like Babylon chain, right? For those out there, it's really cool what they're doing, but they're leveraging Bitcoin. It's called timestamp transactions. So like say you and I, we had this like huge portfolio, it was worth like $10 billion, and we're leveraging crypto. Well, we're not going to just like send a random transaction and not have it verifiable. Well, we want to use the most secure network in the world that's decentralized is the Bitcoin network. So they're even tapping into that aspect of it. And it's just like, there's so much cool things that you can do with this technology. And it's like selfish, or like kind of in a way, for people that are in it short term, they view it as like, okay, well, why can't we force people to buy the Atom token? And I mean, technically they could have if they wanted to from the beginning, but it's almost like they're taking one for the team. Now, I don't know if that's the best mathematical approach to, hey, well, I'm going to get in at this point and I'm going to make the most money. I mean, I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say it's like pioneers. Like someone has to do it. If not, this is all going to be fragmented forever. Like it's always going to be like, you need 16 wallets again. You're going to have to go to this app and need this wallet. And then this, like, I'm sorry, but most people, even younger people, they're not going to do it. Like it's already, there's a fact that we have the shortest, especially younger people, no offense, but they have the shortest attention span. So if there's like a barrier or like a fort in the road or a pit, like a I don't know, a hole in the road, they're just going to go somewhere else. And Cosmos is like, look, we're going to build all these roads real effortlessly and make it as smooth as possible. It's going to take time. And this is kind of what we're going to do. And we're starting to see it. I mean, DYDX was the biggest L2. It was just the biggest, it was the biggest DApp on Ethereum. And they're like, look, you know, we can't be held, basically, I hate to say it, like kind of held hostage at Ethereum. It's slow and clunky, and the transactions are very, very expensive. We're going to just go build our own app chain. What do? They're plugged into Cosmos. They're like, we're going to use your blueprint. Maybe we'll alter the consensus mechanism a little bit to fit our needs, but boom, here we are. Like, okay, what's it? OKY, Joey? You might know what the exchange is, but they have it on there.
Yep, definitely.
And all these centralized exchanges that are like kind of leveraging to be the most secure centralized exchange, they're all using Cosmos. Like they're not IBC enabled yet, but they can. It's because it's the most secure network, and it gives you the most flexibility, and you don't need to rent from them. It's not like, hey, one of the things I don't really like about Polkadot is I like their tech, but it's like you have to lease. It's like, hey, hey Beardy, or hey, you guys, like I'm gonna build this, but I need, and you're like, okay, go ahead and build it, but you need to give us $100,000 to do it. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna build this. Like, and Cosmos is like, come over. You don't need to give us anything. You need to update your code and make sure it's up to date. And you know, here's this and that. And hell, we might even give you a grant to come over and build for us. Like, and you don't need to rent our token. And you can if you want, because you can get the most security possible. Or it's just amazing, like what's going on with it. And people don't see it because they don't, like, the one problem that I do have with Cosmos from a business perspective, because that's like my background in real life was business and marketing and just getting out there, is that they're just like, they have this attitude, and it might be the right approach, it might not be the right approach, but it's more of like, we'll build it, they'll come. Like that's their marketing play. It's like, we're not paying shillers. We're not going to go on YouTube and give someone $10,000 to talk about our token or whatever. They're just like, we're going to build it. People will find out about it. And we are still kind of like a couple of years, in my opinion, from like this all kind of just being just this beautiful masterpiece. So people don't really see it yet. They're just like, oh, I'm going to go over to these chains where if I type in on YouTube, I type in crypto, this is going to pop up, that's going to pop up, this is going to pop up. But for someone that's actually curious and wants to do like their due diligence and say, like, why does this even work? Why is this going to work? Then they don't find out about Cosmos. But like, that's kind of like, I found it out by accident, to be honest with you. And I think that's kind of the approach for a lot of people. They have to find it out by accident because the marketing's just not there, and they don't want it to be there for whatever reason, because they look at it like, we're not there yet. We want this thing to be like, I don't want to say perfect, but pretty much there before we go. Maybe that's when they're going to pull on this like marketing, like we're going to go all out for it. I don't know, but as for the tech, I've never met anyone. I've been to a bunch of different conferences, spoke with different devs from different blockchains. There's not one person I've ever heard say, "Oh, that tech is garbage." Not one. They're like, "That's amazing tech. How can we do it?" I talked to Ripple, XRP guy was at the permissionless event. He was like, "How can we tap into what Cosmos is doing?" You know, like all these different huge players are doing it. So it's like it's gonna happen, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I'm willing to bet on it. It's like, you know what I mean? I'm going for that.
Yeah. And I like the theme that you're talking about in terms of barriers, you know, like what are the barriers that have gotten in the way of like the human race progressing over time, kind of going back to that idea that you had about you know, how language could be a barrier for so long. And now that the internet has removed so many of those barriers and technology has removed more of those barriers than just language, you know, speed, efficiency, translation, all that type of stuff. I see where you're going with it. So when you're also talking about like comparing Cosmos to like Polkadot, because they're both layer 0 chains, in terms of Polkadot, you see the parachains as like another barrier, essentially, because you have to buy into it. You have to lease this space from the chain, whereas Cosmos doesn't have that barrier.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Awesome.
and it doesn't even come off like I'm like anti Polkadot, but like
Right. Yeah, I'm just comparing the two.
Exactly. And there's already a composable finance is essentially tapping into it's called a relayer. So they build a relayer between Polkadot and Cosmos. I don't think it's 100% live yet, but that's going to connect the two anyway. So like if people that are building over on Dot, they wanted to kind of tap into Cosmos and things like that. Like there's already, I can't think of what it is. One of the tokens, it's their composables token, but it's actually listed on Osmosis first. And Osmosis wants to be this decentralized, because it's a L1. They specifically build it to be like a financial hub for everything. And their play is like, we want to connect all of crypto together and have a decentralized DEX. So it's actually 100% decentralized, and we want everything to list on it. We're trying to compete against centralized exchanges and offer products, the same products that centralized exchanges can offer, but be 100% decentralized. So your tokens are your tokens. You could do whatever you want to do with your tokens. You don't have to worry about us taking your tokens and doing all these random side deals and, you know, kind of shady side deals that some of these centralized exchanges have done over the last few years that gives crypto as a whole a bad look. And people on the outside, you know, I talk to people all the time that, you know, like older people. I was just actually talking to someone yesterday. I was at a party, and they're like, "Oh yeah, what are you doing?" And I kind of tell them, I don't like give them all the details because it's just too hard to explain to people that are just really out of it. But, you know, I'm like, "Oh, have you heard of Bitcoin, Ethereum?" I start talking to them about it, and they're like, "Well, what's going on?" And they start this instantly because it's whatever the mainstream. They're also conditioned to listen to mainstream media. That's just like, that's all they had. They grew up, they didn't have tech. So like they're still like, I don't know why anyone watches mainstream media anymore. I don't know why, but anyhow, they just start going like, "What happened to that FTX guy?" And like, you know, I'm like, yeah, it was just humans being evil and greedy. It had nothing to do with the technology, just like, you know, Enron and, you know, whatever else, you know. So it's like, it has nothing to do with Bitcoin or Ethereum or just any crypto as a whole. So it's like, yeah, I kind of say that to them. And I'm just like really bullish on crypto as a whole. And there's so many reasons why. It's because, you know, there's billions of people on this planet that don't have a bank account. And if you're an American, you might not understand that because you live in this, and I'm an American. And really, my eyes didn't really open up into the world until I got into crypto, sadly. And I see all these people all over the world, and I've done so much research, and they don't have a bank. They don't have a currency that their native currency is just horrible. It's just, you can't do anything. Hell, half the people can't even provide identity and say they're this person, or they went to this university. And now for the first time, and I don't want to say humanity ever, but pretty much humanity ever, most people can prove that they are who they are, and they can save money. And it's just empowering. Yeah. I hear all these stories, people DM me and they're like, hey, like, you know, I won your $20 giveaway or $100 giveaway. It's like changed everything for me. It's like crazy. I'm like thinking, you know, if you're American, you're like, what can $20 do for me? I can get like a salad or something, you know, but like $20 in another country is so much money. And it's like so empowering to hear stories like that. And it's because we're all connected now. It's like what I love about crypto, and I look at it because my accounting background, I look at everything in numbers. And all a blockchain is symbolically is a decentralized accounting ledger, which has perfect equations. And then you can build really cool, useful applications on top of it. And everyone has a smartphone now pretty much. So it's like you could just be in the game and you can do things that you couldn't do before crypto was invented. So it's like a move. I always look at it more than just a technology. I look at it more of a movement, and it means a lot to me. And I think it's like we're speed running thousands of years of inequalities and make it. Is it a perfect system? No, but it's a way more fair system than we currently have. And the people that are in power, they're trying to hold on for dear life. And it's just, you know, it's a fact. We're all going to pass away at some point. And a lot of these people in power, especially in America, they're all at the very end of their journey. Like you watch any of them, they're falling asleep on television. They're stuttering. They're slurring their words. They have no clue what's going on. And they're just, for whatever reason, they're just holding on for dear life. And you know, soon they'll expire, you know, and new people come in, and the younger and younger people get into these positions, they're just going to embrace crypto and technology because, in my opinion, it's the ultimate sign of freedom.
Yeah, you know, yeah, absolutely.
You know, what's funny to me is you have Warren Buffett, who has said he doesn't want to understand Bitcoin, and the financial system is fine how it is. And has admitted that it's flawed, and he knows that all fiat's going to zero, but has stated that, well, it's not going to happen in my lifetime, so I really don't care. So the way I look at a lot of these older people, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way towards them, they just don't know any better, is they've used this system for so long that they don't want to change. Like, they don't really give a shit if how the younger generations are suffering with inflation and stuff. They made their money. You know, they were able to buy their houses cheap. They were able to do all the things that our generation and the next generations are struggling with very easy. So what incentive do they actually have to want to learn this stuff? And a lot of them, it's just they don't want to.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, man. I'm with you, Haas, man. Crypto got me thinking globally. I'm kind of a homebody, and I was born like 2 miles from where I grew up, and then got into crypto, and then like started meeting all these awesome people like all you guys, and then I met some guy in Switzerland, and you know, he started doing Tales from the Man Cave, started editing videos for us, and it really opens your eyes to you know, how the other half of the world lives. You know, they don't have the bank accounts, and and me being a Christian, I think it's just like you know, we got to do better for the rest of the world. You know, and my eyes were closed up until I found crypto. So that really resonates with me, Haas.
Yeah,
yeah, and then it's not even just like the bank account side of it. I mean, even in America, there's a lot of people that don't have bank accounts because they didn't have much, and then a lot of people that are misinformed or uneducated about finances. And one of the problems that I deal with in my background is how misinformed people truly are. They graduate high school education in America, especially public schools, is just so poor. Like, they don't teach you things that you actually need or really valuable in your life. Like, no one teaches you about taxation. No one teaches you about finance. No one teaches you anything. So they're just like, here. And I don't know. I don't want to be conspiratorial. I don't know if it's by design or whatever, but a lot of people get out of high school and maybe they even go to a university. And now I know when I went to school, people were trying to prey on me. Open up this credit card, open up this. And
oh yeah,
basically you're young, you're 19 or whatever, 18, 19 years old. You're like, oh crap, I got a $4,000 credit line. Then you go out and you just start blowing money and you don't even have a job. It's like, how do you get credit without a job? And then, you know, you ruin your credit or whatever, or anything, right? And then these people just never get out of holes that they dig in, or maybe they have a 1099 job, or they're self-employed and they don't pay their taxes because they don't realize there's 3 branches of government in America, and then they're in this hole that they can't get out of. And then it's a trickle down effect, and they should be teaching these things. And that's all I try to do in this space, is just be, you know, more than just an educator, but that's like my primary focus. But like Beardy just spoke about, it's more about helping others. And if I get something in return from it, great. If not, it is what it is. Like, I've done so many things in this space, just free and free and free. And, you know, I try to prioritize the people that I feel like that are doing good. They're trying to help people. They're, you know, going to maybe potentially reciprocate something in the future for me to help me. Cause you know, it is like, you still need to have a life outside of crypto. And it's very challenging once you like really commit to this space, because what I find very fascinating with this space is, like, I'm an ex-athlete. I played 4 years college ball. I started for 4 years. Like, I'm a really competitive person. I like to be good at everything I do. And so that drives me in this space, because it doesn't matter how brilliant you are. You could be like Elon Musk, which I feel like is one of the most brilliant human beings maybe ever. And there's no way he can understand every single thing in crypto, even if he devoted every moment of his life to it, because it changes so much and there's so much knowledge, and then things are changing. And like, that's the beauty of technology, is it always goes forward. I had a great uncle that was very successful in life, and he told me, even since a child, he goes, if you want to do well in life, you know, obviously work hard, be respectful, be grateful, you know, all the tools that you need and characteristics. But he said, as an investor, you know, always invest in energy and technology, because it's always going to be needed, and technology is never going to go backwards. It's always going to go forward. And, you know, I've seen literally everything. You know, like, I grew up and cell phones weren't really a thing until I got into high school, and they were terrible. Like, I remember getting the Motorola Razor, thinking it was the coolest phone ever, but I had to smash the A button 3 times to get the letter C, you know. And it's like,
right.
You know, and it's just like, now kids, they grow up and they got like this amazing iPad in their face at all times. But like, that shows you like how, and think about it right now, right? Everyone that's maybe listening, if you're listening on your phone, like, that cell phone can do everything, but it's still going to improve over time. Like, technically, we never need to have another iPhone. This iPhone can pretty much do everything that we can possibly handle right now, but it's going to strive for more. It's going to be more efficient. It's going to be more faster. It's going to be able to potentially run like a node in crypto in 10 years, 15 years from now. Like, it's insane, you know. It's just because it's humans. Like, we're always striving for the unknown. And what's so great about your point about, say, like a Warren Buffett, and to kind of tie this back into like my real life and what I deal with, and most people I speak to are older than me. I'd say 95% of people I speak to at my job that I have like my taxes and like tech stuff that they have to deal with and all this, it's always older people. And you know, not to like not knock them down, because there's a lot of people, and I aspire the ones that are still whatever age they are, and they're still learning, they're growing. They're like, look, I'm not going to say I can't, because that's just a fake word. That's a cop out. That's a word that, you know, unless you physically can't do something, that's not a cop out, I should say. But if you have the capabilities and you're like, I can't do that, I can't go on the internet and do this, it's not that you just don't want to. And people like Warren, like you were saying, they've had this, like, I don't want to call it a racket, but pretty much a racket with the monetary system. And they like, they don't want to let go, because why would you? Like, you're at the top of this mountain and everything is kind of spoon fed to you. And you got these new people at the bottom are like, look, man, we're tired of like all these ways of things. We can make things that are better. And I don't care what obstacle it is. I've spoken to so many brilliant people. I mean, people that went to MIT, Harvard, just geniuses in this space on private conversations. They're all engineers. What do engineers love? They love challenges. So give them all your your qualms, Warren Buffett, or some other person that's in their 80s or 70s, why crypto won't work. I guarantee you they're going to find a solution and build it, and it's just the way it is. And like, that's what makes me so bullish on this technology, is that these engineers, they love a challenge. And now we're going to get into this space where people are going to start going to universities. They're going to focus on blockchain technology, or hell, they might meet some cool other men and women and say, you know what, like, we're getting this application to the next Facebook or whatever. It's going to be crypto related. We don't even need to finish this university. We're going to build it right now. And that's going to happen. I think over this next decade, that's going to be a thing. And people are going to start going to college just for blockchain. It's like, I'm not trying to work for Google and Amazon. I'm going to build my own thing. So
that's already started. Actually, they have some wonderful crypto courses at a lot of the big schools already. I mean, MIT, they have excellent blockchain courses that you can go to. They even have some public ones that are free that you can get involved with. And speaking on behalf of the engineers of the world, that is absolutely true, sir.
Yeah, and you're speaking my language, because my dad was an engineer. He just retired after the 2021 bull run, thanks to me. But he was an engineer, so I've listened to he's taught me how to view things from that analytical lens and the critical thinking lens over my life. And then the other thing that you said that really kind of spoke to me too is like that. If my son grows up and decides that he wants to go to a blockchain college or get into that technology as his education, that would be like the perfect thing. I would be so happy for him and be like, yes, like, you're going to be okay.
Well, this kind of segues into our next question, which we've kind of actually covered, but do you want to give us, just to go over again, a brief bullet point of, because like I said, we have gone over a little bit, but what case does it specifically solve better than other projects for Cosmos?
Yeah, and actually, before you go into that, Hoss, I wanted you to hopefully explain to people what the IBC is, because that was one of the biggest things that I struggled with understanding the Cosmos ecosystem when I first started looking into it. But I feel like it's the most important thing to understand about what gives Cosmos value.
Yeah, so that is like the most important part of it. And the way I like to explain IBC, which stands for Inter Blockchain Communications, so just think of it as just like how the internet connects, and in the background, you don't need to know that it's going to one server to the other. The only problem with Web2 is that it's all centralized servers, and someone can basically manipulate, watch, do whatever they want with that data that's being sent. It's a packet. It's a data of packets. So just think of it like a resource being sent from one website to another. Well, in Cosmos, think of it like everyone knows what a postal service is, and it's like it just works. Like, you don't know why your mail gets delivered every day. It just gets delivered. But this takes it to like another step. So think of it as like a decentralized postal service. And these chains, it's called a relayer. So it's all decentralized. No one can change the data that's being sent from one blockchain to another. So like, say, one planet to another, it just happens. And it's the beauty of end-to-end encryption. But like, that's kind of what an IBC is. So there's no way of manipulating it. Hypothetically, say something happens to the relay, or like, we'll say in a metaphor, like an asteroid hits this like way of going through or whatever. I don't even know if that makes any sense. But what'll happen is, like, what's so great about Cosmos, everyone, I don't know if you guys know what oracles are, but oracles essentially send data, and it's like this, like, I think I think of it as like a membrane or a brain or whatever. It just sends all this data, and it knows all this data, and like Chainlink, people know about like Chainlink. The beauty of Chainlink is it like takes all this old data from the old world and puts it into the new world. However, with Cosmos, when it's in this new world, everything is an oracle. So like, one chain over here knows what the chain is doing on this other, like it's all in the same galaxy. But like, say Osmosis, for example, which is an L1 in Cosmos, it knows all the data that's on, say, like the Cosmos hub. So if someone was like, all right, I'm going to send this data from this hub over to Cosmos or over to Osmosis, and say it doesn't work, well, it automatically gets refunded over. But what they do is they take your data, from the, say this scenario that I'm using, the hub to osmosis, they burn it and then they basically print it exactly how it is because it's an oracle. All this data, like, again, my metaphor at the beginning is like blockchains, all it is a decentralized accounting ledger. Then you build really cool, useful applications on it. So ones and zeros, like everything it just knows what it's going to happen. Like it's essentially like it's a decentralized postal service. This data is going to go there no matter what, and there's no way of stopping it. There's no one can act bad. Like the data just knows. Like even if someone tried to like fake print something over on this other chain, it's gonna know like this is not good data, and it basically is not going to work. Like people say, well, because they're so used to like a monolithic approach, which everything is kind of like, you think about it as a skyscraper, like Ethereum's this beautiful skyscraper, right? But there's no roads, like everything's kind of crappy to get to that skyscraper, but the skyscraper is amazing. But how do you get to the skyscraper? And Cosmos does this more of like, we don't really want skyscrapers. You can build a skyscraper if you want, that's fine. But we're going to build everything that's like synchronized, like just like we're going to build these neighborhoods and we're going to build these city states. And what like I like to think about it is why Cosmos is cool is, like we'll use the world economies and countries for an example. Okay, the UK, you could do whatever you want. Your laws are your laws, but if someone attacks you, like we got your back. We're America, right? That's kind of like how Cosmos is. It's like you have these different planets. Like you could do whatever the hell you want on your planet, but we got your back. We're gonna, no matter what. And that's kind of like how everything works. Like it's just like it's synchronized. Like that's the word Cosmos. For people that don't really understand what that word is, like look the word up. It's exactly what it is. Like that's this technology. So it's so crazy how it's this like I don't know how to explain it any better than that. It's just nuts. That's all I can say.
Nice. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So what would you say is like the for the second part of that question that Joe was referencing, what would be, the biggest use cases that Cosmos has over others?
The fact that for like everyone loves DeFi right now, the fact that DeFi on these monolithic approaches like Ethereum and things, you're seeing them kind of get knocked down little by little at times. Like we've recently had this Curve Finance ordeal where the Curve founder has like such a huge supply of Curve, and then he's taking his Curve and then he's going to these borrowing lending protocols, and the data isn't. It's like it's harder for people to figure out what these people are doing sometimes, or it's just like they could do it and then kind of act maliciously. And not everyone's going to do that. And some of that could potentially happen in Cosmos as well. But it's harder to do it on Cosmos because I'm not going to lie to you, it's not cheap to run your own blockchain. Like you have to have the infrastructure. It's not like, oh, it's going to cost you $1 to do this. And the thing about like Ethereum and these things like that is anyone could kind of deploy an application and then essentially just rug at any point,
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's not what we need. That's a bad look. And Cosmos can call that out right away because again, I don't know many people. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's not cheap. Say a couple $100,000 to run your own blockchain. Like, I don't know many people are like, oh, let me just spend $200,000, then do all this work, all this marketing, get all these users over, and then let's rug when it gets to $1 million market cap. I mean, it technically could happen, but everyone checks the code and all the validators, everything's synchronized. So like if there's any flaws in the code or if there's any vulnerabilities in the DeFi, people are going to know right away and they'll call it out. Like, look, this chain, we haven't had it yet. We have had, dApps that were built on like say Juno, which is a permissionless chain. So it's just like it's a faster version of ETH. It's decent. It's 100% permissionless, so anyone can deploy anything on it. It's like a playground for people. And yeah, people can build stuff on it. It can be completely garbage, and then just try to steal your money if you go on their dApp, which that can happen anywhere. But that's the only kind of vulnerability that Cosmos has, and it has nothing to do with the technology. So to answer that question, like again, since everything's connected, you can have different security postures. Like there's interchain security, which is, you can like have, it's almost like exactly how Polkadot is. You can rent. So like say you guys, right? You're like, you know what? I don't feel like building my own blockchain, or you know what? Actually, I do want my own blockchain for this reason and that reason, but I don't have 200K to just like fork up. Let me build my own chain. You can do the same thing. You can actually rent Atom and then kind of have them, all the validators on Atom, kind of validate your new chain and do stuff like that. Or you can have your own chain and you're like, you know what? I want, it's called mesh security. So you're basically borrowing, you're kind of like that little city thing, that little city state example of connecting to everyone and being on the same treaty. You could do that with like all these other chains, like, hey, Osmosis, hey, this chain and that chain, let's band together and let's use all of our security together and like make this super secure network with just say 5 of us, like but we're still connected together. It's just like, it's so modular. Like I can't explain it. Like, I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent, but essentially think of it also as if one planet in a galaxy got hit by an asteroid and got destroyed. It would be unfortunate, but the whole galaxy doesn't go down. Like it is what it is.
Right.
Like, you know, like how these other things are, if you're building something on just a monolithic chain. So just think of everyone's just putting all their eggs in one basket on this one planet. And then maybe that planet gets hit by an asteroid. You lose everything. Everything gets beat. And it's just, that's not good. Like I always tell people as an investor or anything, never put all your eggs in one basket. As sold as I am on Cosmos and all that, but what's so cool about Cosmos is like, there's like 70 chains on Cosmos. So I can invest in all of these. Like I was invested in Terra and UST and it went to crap, but it's not like everything went to crap for me. It was like, yeah, it was unfortunate. It was terrible, but everything didn't go to zero because of what happened to UST. But like, if you were just like, all right, Matt, I'm going to put every investment into an ERC20 token, I don't think anything ever bad would ever happen to Ethereum. But hypothetically, if it did, you would lose everything because all your resources are on that one planet.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. So yeah, so you see Ethereum as having like more vulnerabilities.
I mean,
than like Cosmos because of that.
I think it has more issues. So there's no one that's going to tell you Solidity is better than Rust. You know,
No,
it's
no, definitely not.
No, there's not one person. And if they do, they're just lying to you because it's not. Okay, let's just get that out there. It's like when like the phone, right? Like my example before, I had that one of my favorite phones was the Motorola Razr. It'd be like me saying that phone is better than that iPhone that you have right now. Like I'm lying to you. Like it's just a flat out lie. It's awesome. Like the person, in fact, I'll even use this as a reference. So the Babylon chain example I use, David Shea is a professor at the University of Stanford. He actually has his own wing. He was a pioneer of wireless communication. So like all the stuff that's going on right now, he is literally one of the people that we should be thankful for. He was an integral part of why cell phones even exist. And for this guy to go, you know what? He has everything, man. He's got fame. He's got his own wing at Stanford, which is a prestigious university. He helped build Web 1, build before Web 1, Web 2. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to build my own chain in Cosmos. Like, to me, if that's not bullish, I don't know what bullish is. Like, this guy doesn't need to do this. There's another guy, Dean Treble. He helped build everything. JavaScript is the most popular computing language in the world. This guy he's a pioneer. He's older, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to build Agoric, which is a JavaScript smart contract app chain in Cosmos. And I'm like, if this isn't bullish, like, why are these guys doing this if this technology isn't any good? So my thing is like, you know, I do view Ethereum as kind of like an OG, and I am bullish. I'm not like, oh, Ethereum's terrible. I invest in Ethereum. I kind of like look at Ethereum as like a New York City. Do I always want to go to New York City? No. Am I okay with how New York City handled a lot of things? No. But everyone can get a direct flight to New York City. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can just go get a direct flight to New York City. And it's kind of like how crypto is right now. It's like you can be on any chain. Everyone builds some sort of, maybe it's not good infrastructure, but they build a way to get to Ethereum. You know, so it's like I always view that as valuable because in my opinion, they have the most. It's like owning Manhattan. It's like they got that. Now, does Manhattan eventually sea levels rise and it just like goes to shit? Maybe, but I don't think it will. And there was never really a good time to ever sell any property in New York City. You would just borrow against it. And I kind of think of Ethereum as that too. It's just like kind of sound money at this point. And so it's not like, oh, Ethereum's terrible. But if I was a builder and logically, maybe right now it's still good to kind of build on Solidity because it's like all the resources and financial wherewithal is there. But I think that kind of gets diminished over time. Unless, again, Ethereum kind of taps in. Maybe one day, I mean, I know Vitalik is very bullish on IBC. He's spoken well about it in the future. Maybe one day they connect over. Like, look, we're just going to be our own chain. We're going to be interoperable with all these different blockchains in Cosmos, because I don't see the point of not doing that. Like, why would you not connect? Because like the beauty of Cosmos is it only adds value to what you're doing. It's not like we're taking your value away. Now, yeah, that's kind of like how I would think about that whole scenario.
Yeah, if you really think about Ethereum too, it's virtually unusable. Like,
It really is.
I don't like using it. Of course I invest in Ethereum for a financial standpoint, but on a technology standpoint, I don't like using it. It's too expensive to do any transactions. It's really not fast, because I've had many transactions get delayed for a very long time, sometimes even longer than a Bitcoin transaction. But when I use things like when I use Cosmos, I never have those issues ever. The only thing I can compare Cosmos to is like Cosmos and Solana. Those two really, I genuinely enjoy using those blockchains. Like I feel great with them. But however, going back to the user interface thing, Cosmos by far just has it, and the applications that they have built on top of it are awesome.
You know, the way my smooth monkey brain is kind of starting to understand this. Cosmos, Hoss, you brought up the New York City and Manhattan reference, right? And yeah, it's cool to own land, or it's cool to own a city block in Manhattan or whatever, or Manhattan itself. That's cool and all, but what it sounds like Cosmos is decided they were going to do is say, hey, you guys can go ahead and do that. We're going to build a railroad system that you guys are going to need everything to transfer to and to build to, and to bring commodities and goods to your city. Because without an environment or some kind of like service like that, then you guys are just going to kind of be stuck in your own stagnant growth in your own way, but it's not going to be to the full potential. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like that way of wording it. You know, again, I do think Ethereum is very useful in different aspects that people don't really speak about. So currently, like what Joby said, yeah, it's unusable. Like you, if I wanted to send you $100, I got to pay like $4, $5 just to send you $100, which is like so stupid.
Yeah.
And to do any interactions, I almost think of currently like Ethereum, and this I've never said this before. I was just kind of thinking about it. It's almost like people that like to golf. You know, people want to go golf. They go golf at a public course, pay whatever. But there are people that are like, you know what? Let me go stunt. Let me go get this country club membership and pay $10K just to say I'm cool. And then guess what? Every year I got to do it again. And then every time I go, I got to pay a fee. And then if I want to eat, I got to pay a fee. But it's like everything's a fee. And that does benefit some people, you know, like some people just want to do that. I personally would never do that. Even if I was a billionaire, I'd be like, I'm not going to pay money to just say I'm cool. Like I think I'm cool. I don't need someone to say I'm cool. And Ethereum's almost like I used that skyscraper example. It's like they got a really good spot, but you like if you're a user, you imagine living in an apartment in New York City, and you go on the elevator and you have to pay just to go to your floor every time. Like even if it's just like a quarter, it's just annoying. Like why do I got to pay to use a freaking elevator to go to my floor? Or if you wanted to go to any floor in any skyscraper, you had to pay every time. It was like all these fees for everything. This is not the future. Like Joby said about Solana, like that's one of the cool things about Solana. It's super fast, super cheap, and they're doing all kind of innovative things. I'm bullish on Solana. I think people always say like the Ethereum killer. I don't know about that per se. Maybe in the long run it could, I honestly think it'll take a dent into it for sure. So, but again, like the tokenomic, just the pure monetary side of things with the actual ETH underlying token is very strong. And I like to think of it almost with all these different L2s popping up as more of like, I don't know, like if you get in trouble with the law, like locally, you just go to like your local municipality. If you're doing something bad on the state highways, like you get in trouble with the state cops or whatever. If you do something really, really bad, or like there's a really big lawsuit, you kind of maybe go to the Supreme Court. So like right now, Ethereum's the most like doing all these different lawsuits and stuff, and I think in the future they'll just be handling like really big cases or really big transfers, and call it the Supreme Court. So this huge transaction, yeah, maybe it's annoying, it's like $20 or $15, but it's not going to be just everyday use. Like, oh, we're going to do like, I'm going to send Joby $20. I got to pay $7. Like, no one's going to do that. That's stupid. If you do it, you're an idiot. And
right.
and like you want to buy an NFT that costs $50, but you got to pay $17. Or you want to do a swap on Uniswap, you got to accept this token as a token, pay $2. Then you swap it. It's like 7, 8. Sometimes if it's real congested, you got to pay 15. Like, I think all these different L2 solutions will kind of help that. But again, they can also do things with Cosmos if they choose to do so as well. And so like, I think Ethereum, it's almost like, I don't know, like even right now, if you think about things, they're valuable that maybe in the 90s, like people collected, and then now they're even more valuable if they were kind of, not beat the crap. So potentially Ethereum would always kind of get that prestige. People are going to like interact on it. I don't know if it's going to be super valuable to financial institutions to run things on it. Maybe like law, but then you could tap into Bitcoin for stuff too. So it's really hard to gauge Ethereum's long-term play. Again, they have the best spot in New York City, so I don't know. It's so hard to say, but I think there's less huge upside to it than some of these other things. So like, what am I in for? Maybe if I'm in this space, I'm looking for bigger upside, maybe higher risk, but bigger upside.
Well,
right.
You also have James from Invest Answers brings this up, the Lindy effect a lot. Ethereum has been around longer than everything else. It does have for the longest time, people were stuck having to use Ethereum. There was no other option, right? Like, you had to just suck it up and use the fees, and you just had to deal with it. And now it almost reminds me of the banking system, but just extremely sped up, right? Like you have and we'll call them like the ETH maxis, right? Who are like the Warren Buffetts, where, yeah, there's something better out there, but I don't want to learn how to use it because I don't care, because I just want this, right? Like that.
Yeah.
They have their ETH, they have whatever, they're fine paying the fees because, whatever the reason they decide to do that is, just because they don't want to hear anything else about other chains. And you hear a lot of like ETH maxis talking shit about, sorry for swearing, I've been working on not doing that as much. I try not to. I've been working on it. I've been doing good though. I have. I look at it as, like people are eventually going there. It's sped up, right? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. You have like the ETH maxis who are talking smack about Solana, right? And Cardano and Cosmos or whatever. And oh, well, we're so, but they bought ETH when it was pennies on the dollar, like of what it's worth now. So they don't really care that they're paying more money in fees because they're already rich. They already have theirs, like it doesn't matter to them. They'll send the, whatever it is because they have a whole bunch of it. It's fine, whatever. Screw you,
yeah.
So there's more and more use case I can at least, it sounds like to me, of chains that are going to not rob people, like essentially with fees. And you have a lot of people who are in these third world countries, second world countries who don't have bank accounts. They're not going to spend $3 or $5 to send $10 because that to them in their currency is an exorbitant amount of money. And they're like, oh my God, look at all this that I'm losing right now, as opposed to something on Solana, something on Cosmos where it's pennies, fractions of a penny
Right.
to send. So I think that the space is kind of like the banking sector, but just sped up, on like 5x or 10x, right? Like things are rapidly changing so fast. Do you think that's fair to say, Haas? Or like
I mean, a good way. I really like that, actually, and kind of it's almost in this realm of things, it's almost like going to a Western Union right now, and you got to pay your fee.
Yeah.
Maybe they got better.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know when the last time I used Western Union, but back in the day, I used to use it like a long, long time ago, like when it first came out. It's like no one's going to do that. And another thing too is it loses some use cases, right? Before it was like you could only get USDC on Ethereum natively, right? And if it was on other chains, it's a wrap version of the USDC that's from Ethereum. So now everyone's starting to get native USDC, native USDT, native every stable coin. And then not only that, like in Cosmos, there's all these different stable coins too that are backed by global assets, and they're experimenting, like they're doing all kind of different things. Like a lot of people don't realize, but Terra Luna was an app chain on Cosmos, and they had the UST, and it was a failed experiment. There's reasons why it really didn't have to do necessarily with it being an algorithmic stablecoin. It had to do with the execution side of things. Again, greed and stupidity, and we're going to offer 20%, APR on just give us your stable coins. We'll give you 20%, like, or 10%. Like none of that's sustainable, So that was just a failed experiment. It wasn't like, it was a bad code or this was dumb. It could actually work, but you have to be realistic. Like if someone ever tells you, give me your money, I'll get you 20%, you better run for the hills, because that's not true. Maybe they can in the short term. Maybe this person's like the next Warren Buffett, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm just not going to do that. Like I'm here, and that's and sadly, I hate that, people got wrecked by like a Celsius or a BlockFi.
I was just fixing to say that. Do not follow for fucking Mashinsky 2.0.
Exactly. Because like, all right, so again, luckily I have a lot of background in finance and accounting and just common sense with numbers. I didn't get in this space to say, hey, Beardy, I'm going to give you all my money that I worked hard for. Just give me like 7%. You know what I mean? Like I could do that on my own. So I never fell for it. Don't get me wrong. I tried out BlockFi and Celsius just when I first got into crypto, like right away, right? Before I was like in DeFi and like really felt comfortable kind of taking off the training wheels. So that could be useful. But if someone had that mentality, I would just recommend maybe if you're an American, just use Coinbase and maybe like make some low APRs or whatever they're offering for the time being until you get comfortable with experience in DeFi. And if anyone's ever listening, like, can always reach out to me. I love helping people out, kind of educating people, and I have a bunch of resources, a bunch of Twitter spaces, whatever. But yeah, like I didn't fall for that because I was like, look, man, this is a really highly risky speculative asset class anyhow. Why would I give all my money to some person that's going to take my money, and God knows what they're doing with it? So I'm just going to put it in, I'm going to stake it, for now time being, because I understand where this token goes, and someone can't just steal it off of me or do whatever the hell they want with it. It's just a way of like, okay, I'm giving you my money and we're all bonding together and we're going to make this like the most secure network ever. So here's my money. I'm kind of like down for the cause. And I kind of did that first. And then I'm like, you know what? The osmosis, like I love what they were doing. It was so cool. It was innovative. It was fast and sleek. I was like, this makes sense. So I started to hop into like LPs once I did a lot of research of understanding what a liquidity pool was. And I was like, man, this is really cool. Like, I feel like it was like weird as like, I was like taking one for the team. People are like, whoa, there's impermanent loss. There's this and that. And not that people shouldn't worry about that, but I'm like, look, someone has to do it or else you're going to always have to use a centralized exchange. You're always going to have to trust this central entity with your money. And I didn't get in this space because of that. Like I see it from all spectrums and I see how the game is so rigged that I don't trust central entities because they've shown over humanity that they don't do the right things. Sadly, when
Right.
money gets involved, not everyone, because there are a lot of amazing people, and I see that you guys are probably one of them, that people do the right things. If you drop a $5 bill, I like to put myself around people that'll pick that $5 bill up and say, "Sir, ma'am, you dropped your $5." Didn't just stuck it in their pocket. But there are people that do that, and sadly, some of them kind of, I like to call them parasites. Those kind of parasites are in this space, but they're getting one by one, they're getting axed and they're getting out of this space, and it's clearing the path to a better future in this space, and it's clearing the dead wood or whatever you want to call it. And that's kind of like the approach that I think about crypto. And as you can tell, I'm obviously very passionate. I think it just makes sense philosophically. And also, when you guys were asking me why Cosmos, and not to toot Cosmos horn, because I've been around a lot, and Cosmos people, to me, and this is not trying to come off as like a maxi or anything, I find most Cosmos people, especially right now in the bear market, to be very intellectual, very, for the most part, very wise, and very, like, I don't want to say anti-establishment, but like anti-centralization. And they're like, they kind of resonate with the way that I think. And not only that, I find some of the best and just good people to be in Cosmos. Like, I've been, a lot of times I hop on Twitter Spaces just to listen to like random shit, like random stuff. And I'll listen to it and I'm just like, I can't listen to this anymore. It's driving me insane. They're talking about things that don't matter. If I want, but maybe that's their vibe, but they'll like have the heading of talking about crypto or this. And then I go into these spaces, I'll listen for 5-10 minutes, and I'm like, they didn't talk about anything about crypto. They're talking about why their token's going to go up. I like, don't like to think like that. I'm like, look, I try to position myself just in life too. If I lost everything, yes, it would be unfortunate, but will I be okay? If I say yes, and my thesis in this space was, look, I've looked and I've tried to tell my dad when I was a little kid to invest in all these different technologies, Amazon app. I remember buying a book on Amazon in '93, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It got delivered to my house. I could write a review on it. And I was like, you should invest in Amazon. Like, what do I know? I was just a little kid at the time. And then I was like, Dad, like, you should invest in Microsoft. You shouldn't. He never listened to me. And then I feel like we are in this next realm of things. And 20 years from now, people are going to look back and be like, for the ones that didn't make it or unsuccessful, or maybe they have to live off the government. I hope that doesn't happen to anyone, but they need to like resort to government. And they're going to be like, well, why didn't you just take some of your paycheck and invest in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Atom or hell, anything? You could have just picked a name in a hat, invested in 50 different things, and 40 of them made it, 10 didn't, or even just if a few make it. It's like, what were you thinking? Did you not have any cojones or what? So I think we're kind of in that same, I really do. I think we're in that same thing. So like, I ridiculed my father for not ever taking a leap of faith. We didn't have much. So I understand. We didn't grow up, and, he was a hardworking, he's still a gritty guy, but he never listened to me. And I've always loved money. I've always loved technology. I've always loved just interacted with new technology. And I seen this as a kid. I'm like, man, like, just invest in it. And now I think we're at this, like, the precipice of just like the unknown. But I think blockchain and artificial intelligence and all of it's going to leverage blockchain one way or another. And there's going to be more and more servers, and people invest in, maybe you invest in the actual, the infrastructure, like graphics cards and computer chips and, Tesla or whatever, like, because you see this future of just technology is not going to go backwards. The only way technology is going to go backwards, if next year or 2 years from now, we get hit by this meteorite and wipes us out, or most of us out, then we got to start from scratch. But guess what? Someone's going to be trying to build technology to fix solutions. So it's just like, I'm just bullish on technology. Now, I don't have a timetable like, oh, you know what? If you buy Bitcoin next year, you're going to make, I don't do that because I don't have time for that. Not that it's not important. People that trade, you do your thing. I'm more of like, look, I think the fair market value of Bitcoin is this. Does it get there next year, 5 years from now? I like to take care of myself physically. I'm not in a race. Like, I'm just not in a race. I want to be doing this the rest of my life. So I'm just not in a race. Like, I'm just not.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what it almost, the way I describe it to people is, if you look back at the early 1900s, right? When Henry Ford came out, and I use this example with Tesla, right? All the carriage manufacturers, horse and buggy manufacturers were telling you, don't worry about that automobile stuff. It's not going to go anywhere. You just stick with what you know, right? And then some people like,
you're breaking up, Joe.
can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you're good
Now,
now.
yeah, there we go.
The more that you get adoption, right? More people are going to realize, like, hey, that horse and buggy thing doesn't really make sense, right? Like, we should probably do this car thing. And Henry Ford was like, hey, I've got this automobile, I can do this, let's go. And people were hesitant, and those were the people who, you know, didn't buy into the innovation. They didn't buy they didn't buy Ford stock. They didn't make those huge gains. When Microsoft came out, like you were saying, people were like, those computers are never going to do anything, you know, like we're just going to keep what we're doing. And those are the people who are the early adopters who realize that there's always going to be technological change, there's always going to be an advancement, are the people who are going to win.
How about Ferdinand Foch, World War I? He was like the supreme commander, whatever. He said,
Of the air,
the airplanes are interesting toys, but of no military value. And then the World War II comes along.
F-35 superiority in A-10s.
World War II comes along, and that's what wins the war, right?
Yeah, it's just like it's again, like my life, I deal with people that live in this like bubble of anything. They always want to have excuses. They never want to keep grinding and working and just they give up. It's sad. Those are the type of people, maybe the ones that are making these predictions, they have everything. Like you said earlier, like maybe they have everything, so they don't care. Or they got into Ethereum at a couple pennies or $1, or they bought Bitcoin at $2 or $5 or $100. So they don't care. Like it's almost like, why do people that have generational wealth, why does it only stay in their family for usually only about 2 years? It's because, or 2 generations, excuse me, because when you don't have desire and heart and drive, you become complacent. And when you become complacent as a human being, you become obsolete. It's a fact. I hate to 100%. Say it, but it's just a pure fact. So when people go, well, this person was handed first, I think it's almost harder at times when someone was successful that got handed like the keys to the castle and they became even more successful. I'm like, man, that person has to have self drive and motivation. It's almost harder when you don't have anything because that's all you know. You wake up, you're like, man, my life sucks. We have nothing. We're on food stamps or whatever it is. So you just work your ass off from day one. But imagine the kid that's spoiled and entitled, gets everything, and they're like, they still have that drive. Like I find that to be almost, if not more inspiring. And that's kind of how these people are that make these predictions. They have everything, right? Like you could just look back to 2000. It's 2023. I know some people may in this space may not even be 23. Hell, a lot of people I interact with are way younger than me. And it's just like people in 2000 were saying the internet was a scam. It's for weirdos. It's never going to work. It's honestly the worst prediction in humanity because everyone's life was altered one way or another from the invention of the internet. Like it's just like everything that we're doing right now is because of the internet. So like that person that goes, oh, crypto is a scam, it's for hucksters and all this stuff. They're in their own little posse. They got everything they want. They're in this like scheme or racket or whatever you want to call it. They don't want to let go of it. Maybe they don't understand it or they don't want to understand it. But the fact is that they're becoming obsolete and it scares the shit out of them. And crypto is just the unknown. It's like, why did people like go to space? Why did people do anything we do? Like there has to be some people out there that do these things because it's like, if not, we'd be super bored just going, oh, you know what? We don't need to work. We're just going to sit back and the government's going to pay for us, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. Like, no, there's people out there that are hungry for more in the unknown. And humans have done that forever. Like, why did people go from their countryside and go, you know what? I'm going to hop on this unsafe boat and just go across the Atlantic Ocean and go see if there's land over there. Like someone has to do these things. And right now I look at crypto and technology and is just like digital explorers. We're just going for the unknown. Like, you know, like I was used the Elon Musk thing, and people might not like him for some of the things he says or does, but I firmly believe that he's one of, if not the most intelligent people on this planet. And like, I look at him and I'm like, all right, what is he up to? I'm just going to invest in it because I believe in him. You know, that not that that's the right principle. Like, I don't say just to do that, but I just believe in the guy's a winner. Like, the guy is he's a winner. Like, I invest in winners.
Man.
Yeah. I just invest in winners. I just invest. It's not even like I'm like, man, Teslas are so cool. Like, they're the coolest cars. I can tell you why I invest in Tesla, because I think like electric cars will be at some point the future. I think all autonomous cars will be the future. I think that there's children right now on planet Earth that will never have to drive a car because it'll be all autonomous. I think that buying a car will almost be like it is almost right now. It's almost a luxury, but it'll be almost pointless at some point. It's like, why do I buy a car? It just sits there. I never use it. I rarely use it. And I could just call this autonomous car that picks me up, takes me where I'm at. And really, with the price of, like, say, gasoline or whatever, it's almost like mute. It's like moot or whatever. So I invested because I think he will be a forefront of that. Well, there's got to be stations to charge your cars. Imagine having stations all over the place that people have to pay a small fee to charge the car. Like, I think he could be a part of that. So it's like, I invest in the infrastructure. I'm not investing because, like, dude, I honestly don't even want a Tesla car. Like, I don't want a Tesla car, but I invest in because I think he's doing way more than just the car. I think the car is the most like a facade right now. I think that is a technology that I'm invested in. And again, I mean, you can even think about it. We're all seem like we're all on the same age. You watch old Stallone movies and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and all this. It was all futuristic about technology and robots and all that. It's coming to fruition. These movies were back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, and before there was a cell phone. And these people said, like, it's like if the human thinks of it, it's like it just somehow happens. It might take longer than people think, but and I'm just one of those people. Again, my core thesis for anyone out there is, if everything goes to zero, are you going to be okay? Are you financially okay, spiritually okay, or do you just, like, is it going to ruin your life? If it's going to ruin your life, one, you should probably think about things not in a monetary sense, but like get your mind right, your whatever. But don't be just reliant on, well, crypto needs to go to this for me to pay my rent or my bills or whatever. Because if you have that mindset, you're going to stress yourself out. You're going to have anxiety. You're probably going to take years off your life, because it is like a roller coaster. That's how technology is. When it's early, it's like a roller coaster. You can look at all technologies, Google, Amazon, they all took like 60% haircuts in 1 year. Like, if you were all in on that, that would scare the shit out of you. Like, so just diversify. Like, I personally, what I'm doing is I'm pretty much all in on technology, because I think it's just going to keep going to the unknown and to be a part of it. And what's beautiful about crypto is, if you buy a share of Apple, like, what say do you have in Apple? You have absolutely no say. You're an ant. But if you buy a share, or if you're going to use just share, but a crypto token, you can actually vote. You can be a part of it. You can make a difference on social media. You can meet other like-minded people and kind of band together and say why one thing is good and why is one not. And it's just empowering. Like, crypto is more than just monetary. It's governance. It's digital rights for music and art and gaming, and it's just going to be everything, in my opinion. It's just like we're all going to have these micro economies throughout whatever. And guess what? If you don't like this little ecosystem you're in, you just go to another one, and it's going to be how it is. And there's no way stopping it. Like, people are like, oh, how's Gary Gensler going to do this and that? I'm not worried about him, because guess what? Again, my metaphor is people expire, they become obsolete, and technology always makes humans obsolete at some facet. Like, everything is turning into that. And that's what crypto is going to do too. And AI, it's just going to make people that don't want to do anything or don't want to learn a new skill, it's going to make them obsolete. And it scares people. It's sad, it does, but that's how technology is.
Well, I mean, you can look at that right now in the Congress and Senate, how people, a lot of younger people, Joby is especially proactive in this space, but reaching out to their congressmen and their senators. I contacted my congressman, and one of his staff aides, I was like, hey, I do this crypto show with my friends. This is some of the episodes we've done. And his one of his aides, she was like, wait, you've done an episode? It was with the one we did with Emmy Mooney. And she's like, wait, you did an interview with Emmy Mooney and with Rob from Digital Asset? And we're like, yeah. And she's like, wow, like that these people are actually in Washington are starting to wake up, and they're like, their aides, their younger aides are like, hey, you need to start listening to this because my generation really cares about this. And you can see that kind of shift starting.
Yep. There's a huge political shift. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of ties us into our next question, which is, what do you expect from the tech in the bull run? You know, like, or even in the next, 5 years, what do you expect the tech from Cosmos to do? Do you expect it to continue being like the railroad, like we talked about, and like the Davy and Crockett kind of exploration of, just kind of keep going out? Or
yeah, it's crazy you asked that, because like I've never really thought too much about that. It would be more just maintenance, but it's almost like I was using the railway example, and then you had people that back then they were connected, so they bought the land next to it, and because it's just why wouldn't you, if you have money and you have connections, buy the land, buy it, because someone needs to build something there, and it's gonna, in my opinion, they're gonna have a lot of prime real estate for things, and then people are just gonna keep adding new blockchains to Cosmos. Like right now, for example, if in 5 years from now, if say American Airlines was like, you know what, we have a royalty program, but we want to get into blockchain because one, we want it to have it more, we want to have our website more secure. We want to have it end-to-end encrypted, yada, yada, yada. But we also want to have a reward program or system that people can interact with and be able to like maybe trade or swap, whatever you want to call it, their other assets to buy perks. Like maybe it's not just the royalty program, whatever, like even not just them, it's just any like actual Web2 company, and they want to have a blueprint. They don't want to have to spend all this money, build their own chain, and not have a clue what they're doing. I firmly believe that people will just get into Cosmos for that fact alone, because it's like this beautiful blueprint that just works. It has worked. There's been zero hacks. There's been billions and billions and billions of dollars of transaction volume throughout one chain to another, sent over to this data, to that data. There's been zero hacks. It's essentially unhackable. People look up what a Merkle proof is, and you'll find out what a Merkle proof is. It's amazing what these people have developed. And I just think, because even in that aspect, like say us right now, we're having this conversation, 5 years, we're like, let's do something in crypto. Let's build this new enterprise. We could just go into Cosmos and decide, look, we don't even want to interact with that chain over there, this chain. We could just interact with ones we want. Like there's so much customizability and flexibility, and you're not held hostage of what you want to do or your decisions. And it's just like how humans should be, right? Like we do have like imaginary lines and borders places, and we do need borders because people have bad ideas. Like I visualize like an actual border, right? Like America to like, we'll just use Mexico. I wish humans could just go wherever they wanted to go without having to have some central entity say, look, you need a passport, or you need to do this. But I look at imaginary borders as like a bad idea to a good idea. Maybe Mexico has bad ideas, or maybe America has bad ideas, but you kind of have to have that in the digital space too. Is people will be in this space and be doing the same nonsense that they're doing with the bad things. Like there's some things that are pretty much economically always resistant to any downturn, and it's the sins. It's like the gambling, the alcohol, the porn, or whatever. Like that stuff is always going to exist. But like you don't have to interact with that. People are going to get into crypto. They'll be doing that crap. It's just that, there's no way of stopping it, because it's like, again, the beauty of like decentralization is that you can't just like pause someone's wallet or erase their funds. But right now it is, it's like if someone just did, well, especially during like the virus and everything, people were getting silenced because they didn't have a different opinion. And it was not the way this, especially we'll use America, as the example. Like, imagine if King George, when he came over, if people couldn't say like, I don't believe in this, like, let's stand up. And if technology existed back then, and you had these places like YouTube and all these censorship, like, we wouldn't even be talking right now. Who knows what will happen? You have to have freedom. And I think like crypto is a way to connect the whole world together, but also Cosmos is truly the most decentralized network in crypto. It just is. Like Bitcoin does what it does. It's like a time stamping thing, but it's slow, and it serves one purpose by default. And this doesn't come off as me not liking Bitcoin, because I love Bitcoin. I'm glad for Bitcoin. Is it serves the purpose of, look, I want to put this in there. I know there's only 21 million Bitcoins ever made. After people lost, who knows? Maybe there's only 17 million of them. I own 1 Bitcoin or 2 Bitcoins or half a Bitcoin or whatever. I know that like no one's going to just take it off of me. Like, I own this Bitcoin, and I believe that monetary value will use it. Like, I look at Bitcoin as like as a savings account. I don't trade Bitcoin personally because I don't trade my savings account. And, but there needs to be other technologies. And I think that Cosmos will just keep being the most secure, the most decentralized, and allows freedom of people coming and doing whatever they want to do, whether it's technically a good chain or a bad chain. You know, people will tap into Cosmos.
Yeah. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, honestly, the more and more we talk, to be honest with you, I didn't know a whole lot about Cosmos from when we started this conversation. So I'm actually personally learning a lot, but the more and more it really does sound like it's the railroad system, you know, like we won't go back to that analogy. It's cool to own, you know, we'll call Bitcoin, like Sailor says, you know, a square block in New York or whatever, right? But like, do you want just to own 1 square block, or do you want to own the ability to get the goods and services to the people who live in New York on that square block? And James talks about, from Advanced Answers, kind of talks about this as well, with the miners in San Francisco who sold the pickaxes and stuff like that to the gold miners. They didn't want to go up there to the cold and deal with all the tundra and all that BS. They're like, we'll sell you the stuff. You're going to give us money. We're going to get more money than you probably will, but you think that you're going to do it, so go have fun. And I'm not saying that, you know, obviously I'm not saying Cosmos is better than Bitcoin, but you know, it's just another useful tool in the belt of crypto, right? Or this digital asset space.
I think Cosmos has a really strong case for being the base layer of a multi-chain future. I think that's the way I've always viewed Cosmos, and what pushed me toward my investment toward it. I think that if any chain can be capable of hosting multiple chains, like including the ones that are very heavy current right now, it would be Cosmos, because of the way IBC works. So, you know, it's definitely a solid project in my opinion.
Yeah, and to be completely honest with everyone, I actually, we were talking about Ethereum earlier. I got so fed up with Ethereum last week and the fees, because I was trying to move it to my wallets and different wallets and stuff. I ended up losing like $50, and I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just going to transfer it all into different stuff. So I put most of my Ethereum into Bitcoin, to be honest with you, and then into a few other projects, just because I looked at it. I'm like, this isn't doing anything at this point that other chains don't do better. Now, will I probably regret that in the next bull run when I look at, you know, what it does in gain wise? Yeah, maybe, but I'm looking at this as like a 10-year time horizon. Yeah, ETH is great for a lot of things, but damn, does it suck at a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a reason why they went from proof of work to proof of stake, and why they're trying to do all this. But again, like, what they're trying to do is by addition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, I want some, like, the best CEOs for a company are ones that like started off as like a janitor. They went from this position to that position because they understand everything about that job, that company. They're not just some person that's like, you know what, like, this guy does this, let me just hire him as a CEO. He has zero clue about anything about this, but he's a good speaker, or he does this. And I kind of like think about Ethereum in that realm. And again, I'm not this anti Ethereum thing, but there, you know, at one point Yahoo was the best, and then Google just smashed it, just
Honestly.
stepped on its head. And
Right.
that could happen with Ethereum. Like all these people, they do have a lot of good things for it, you know. But I think I personally think people are just naive or silly if they're just this huge Ethereum maxi from if you're just getting into this space. Because I mean, if you type in crypto on YouTube, you're gonna find Ethereum. You're gonna find all of these people shill on Ethereum or these dApps on Ethereum, and it's just the way it is. You know,
Right.
as social media progresses and there's more ideologies and different ways of things, not even just crypto, there's going to be more viewpoints. And again, that's another thing blockchain can offer is this social network where some 20-year-old can't say, you know what, I know better than this doctor knows, or I know better than what this expert knows because I just don't like what he said or she said, you know, or it doesn't go with this narrative that we're trying to present here. And it's just like we're going to get to that spot where blockchain is going to do all of this because, you know, I'm me personally, I'm about freedom, and people they could do whatever they want for the most part, as long as you're not harming people. But the fact that we don't, like, we live in America's supposed to be this like super ultra free country and believe in freedom and everything. And people that I've grew up with had this, don't trust this entity, don't trust the government, don't do this. And then now it's all like, they're just getting in line like a herd, you know, it's like, get in line, whatever they say is right. And don't second guess anything, even though there's empirical evidence that when humans or central entities control things, it always goes awry. Like it always does. It's just, why does every fiat crash and burn at some point, right? Like if you think about it, inflation is truly man-made. It's constructed and it's man-made. Like the beauty of like Bitcoin and these systems is it can alter, like you could change by governance, say, hey, like, okay, our max supply was 1 billion. And 10 years from now, they could say, you know what, we want to have like a 2% inflation rate because of this, and this. I'm not saying all inflation is bad, but the fact that like no one truly knows like what fiats and what's in circulation, and all a piece of dollar is a debt. It's nothing. It's not backed by anything. You know, it should scare people, but they're like, oh, you know, and people that are, I don't know, let's say in their 60s or 70s or whatever, they had a gold mine. They had everything they could have if they would have took some risk. And that they complain about all these things that I listen to, and crypto offers essentially all these solutions to every single qualm that they have about the governments and these central entities. And they just, you know, there are some, like I said, there's a lot of people that they're opening their eyes to it. Maybe they just like, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin because I hear about it. But crypto offers all these solutions, and the younger people see it. Like they're adapted, they're born, they identify with technology. So like you don't have to really train them. I mean, they're already playing games that have their own, like Fortnite, they have their own currency with V-Bucks, and they understand this. They're kind of getting conditioned to understand crypto in a sense. And, you know, I think there's people that are in Cosmos and others out there that are going to build these railways with these users, millions and millions, hell, probably even billions of users, where they can get them into crypto without them even knowing about crypto, because the technology is going to be so sound over the next 5 years, where people are going to be like, you know what, I used to play Call of Duty and I had all these skins and weapons, but I can never do anything with them unless I sold my entire account. You're going to be able to trade them and go, you know what, I'll trade you this weapon for that weapon. And like, it's crypto. Like crypto is going to do all of this.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with a lot of what you said, and like to kind of tie like a lot of it together, you know, so I'm a licensed professional counselor, and human beings hate change. So you're absolutely right when you were like speaking, you know, before about a lot of like people being concerned with change. They become comfortable with what they're used to, what they grow up with, and then they don't want anything to change. But the younger generations are part of that change. They are living a different way to kind of go about the same things. And so like if the people in power are older and the people are younger, are trying to do things differently, you have this like clash in the butting heads of people not seeing eye to eye. But you have to be open to change, because the world is constantly changing. And you're absolutely right that we're delusional if we think that systems that have like a 100% failure rate, but we're not going to run into that same problem because we figured it out, and this is going to be the perfect one. So if every single fiat currency has failed, why do you think that the US dollar isn't going to fail eventually? If every single government or empire eventually crumbles, why do you think that ours isn't going to crumble? It's all going to happen eventually. It's just nobody wants to admit that they're part of that time period in which it's turning over and falling down. And absolute power, yeah, and like absolute power corrupts absolutely. So as it gets more and more centralized, eventually you run into that problem. And this is why like socialism, like while it looks awesome on paper and theoretically, it's never, socialism and communism have never worked in its truest form, because the people at the top ultimately destroy that. And that was one of the things that really drew me to like Bitcoin and crypto, is that like, well, with Bitcoin, it's programmed, nobody can change it, so therefore I see it as like removing that human corruption. And then also when you're looking at other aspects of the crypto space, your yeah, I lost my train of thought on that one. Sorry, guys.
You're good, man. That was good stuff right there. I mean,
but I mean, yeah, that's kind of how I see this. It's like this is the change that we want to see in the world. We have to learn to embrace it, and we have to push the people out that don't want to change because it's not in their benefit to change.
I'm gonna kind of throw a side wrench in here, and then we can move on to our next question. But the reason that I am such a strong believer in Bitcoin is because of my family. I don't know. I've never actually told any of you guys this, but my family is actually Jewish. And I remember my grandmother. I asked her about her family when I was very young, and I didn't understand about Nazis and the Holocaust and stuff like that. And I asked her why she didn't have more family, and she said they were killed by the Nazis. And she told me how her great grandfather had, the many Jewish people across Europe, and especially in Germany, they had their banks frozen by the government, and they couldn't afford to leave. They couldn't get on the boats to leave. They didn't have any money. So they only had enough to send my great grandmother, and the rest of her family was murdered, lined up against a wall by their government because they were a certain ethnicity, or because they didn't have the same beliefs as someone else. And that has always strung, like kind of made me not trust governments in general, right? Watching my grandmother cry about this and tell me how the only person in her family who got out besides her great grandmother was her great great uncle, and how he survived the camps. And I won't talk about that stories and stuff like that and what he went through, but I very vaguely, or very clearly remember seeing her, like, tears coming down her eyes talking about that. And Bitcoin solves that, right? Like I keep thinking, or I did thought at the time, like, what if all like the Jewish people had Bitcoin back then, right? A decentralized finance where they could have spent their money to get away. They could have gotten out of the country without their bank accounts being frozen and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So
it wouldn't have been cut off. You bring up a really good point there, Joe.
Yeah, when you think about the political climate of today and all the control things that went in place, like COVID-19 and everything, right now it's proving to be that with how things are becoming, having decentralized access to money is probably one of the most critical things that any person can have. So the push for this technology is more important now than it's ever been. And I think more people are starting to see this. And as they do, it's just going to continue to grow as it has been.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll move on, and I'll get off my soapbox for that next question we have here. And this one might be a little spicy for some people, and we don't mean it to be, but Cosmos is our, now going to be our hopefully resident Cosmos boss or info guy. So hopefully you'll come back on and talk to us in the future again. But Grind, at one point we were talking about different projects, and he had mentioned that in the past the founder said at some point there will be no longer use case for the token. I believe it was the Atom token, Grind.
Yeah, it was the Atom token.
So and I know that had been walked back, and there was back and forth and different people on this. Can you, for the audience, go ahead and clear this up and explain to us what he meant by that, or what has changed in that, or what about the project itself, having known this, I mean, because it sounds like you just said it was the Atom token, so you obviously know about it. What makes you still believe in that, investing in the space and that particular in this, what about that makes you still so bullish on it? Or can you clear that up for us?
Yeah, so the person, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to also kind of like lay a little bit more of a foundation from my perspective, too.
Sorry,
no, it's okay. Just to make sure that like people understand. So like my history with Atom is as follows. Like I bought it late 2020 or early 21, or somewhere between like $7 and $9, and I ended up being able to sell it at the top. And during that time frame, I was really trying to narrow things down and figure out what are the disciplined like investing principles that I want to put in place following this bull run. And so some of the things that I put into place are the following rules that people like on my channel will be familiar with. I don't invest outside the top 100. I look at the tokenomics and I want to see the what is the total supply, what's inflation look like, all that type of stuff, what's the VC distribution, what's the vesting schedule, how long has it been around, and has it already survived a bear market, as well as like a couple of other rules. So when I got to the end of the top of the peak of that cycle and I was cashing everything out, like one of the reasons or the three main reasons as to why I decided that I wasn't going to hold Cosmos anymore, even though I believe in the ecosystem and the project, but I didn't want to be invested in the actual token because I was concerned about price action. That was because of these three things. Number one, I didn't like the 28-day lockup period and how you don't have access to your funds while you're trying to like make some sort of transition. And crypto moves fast, so you can get stuck in that position. Number two, I didn't like the tokenomics from the standpoint of that it has an infinite supply, which can definitely be concerning. And then last but not least, what this whole question was about was that the founder came out and basically said like he believed that in the future there would be no incentive to own Atom because it's not required. Like you said, with like the difference between this and like DOT is you don't need it to be able to build on the chain or use the chain. You can spin up your own project and keep yourself entirely separate from Atom. So with all of that, that was the reason why I decided to dump it. And, I took a healthy profit. So thank you, Atom and Atom community. I appreciate that. But, I don't know if I can get back into it from an investment mindset because of those things. So I just wanted to clarify for everybody that that's my position on Atom as a project versus Atom as an investment.
So yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with the outlook. So the person that said it was Zaki, which was one of the core people that helped build essentially everything, and he has his own projects now, like Familiar is like a EVM compatible kind of trades, and they use some AI, and it's pretty fascinating. But anyhow, what he mainly was suggesting, in my opinion, was like what you said, the Atom token. Not that it would be worthless, but currently, right now, so like the hub, just think of we call it the Cosmos hub. I like to call it the Atom hub, so people that are newer just don't get confused because they're so conditioned. Everything needs the ETH token or whatever. Think of the hub as not really having much use case right now. but the thing about it is like the vision that the people that are having this right now is, hey, we're going to have thousands of chains one day connected to Cosmos. And the Atom token's more of just the common good. It's like the currency. It's almost like the Bitcoin of all these different galaxies. It's like acceptable currency, like no matter what planet you're on. Like everyone kind of does things, whether it's a DeFi protocol or whatever it is. Like everyone accepts the Atom token. And your suggestion about like not being able to unlock and all that has been changed where, so yes, you could still stake natively, and a lot of times when these new L1s are spun up or whatever, they do airdrops, which is like, in my opinion, it's just like a marketing device. So people that are staking Atom, I mean, if you were just staking Atom this whole time since you got it at $7, you for sure would have got your money back, plus way more with all these different airdrops, because it's almost like every time a chain comes out, instead of paying for a commercial, they just pay the people that are staking. Like, hey man, here's 400, depending on how much skin you have in a game. Everyone does different mechanics for it, but you get free tokens, and then you get to go try out this application for free because you believed in Atom. And it's almost like instead of people paying like the DOT, people are like, all right, well, since you're doing this common good, a lot of people do. It's like plus it just looks good too. It's like, all right, this new chain's out, we're going to give an airdrop to the Atom stakers. So like there is pros of just staking for that aspect. I mean, it's insane. And then like the infinite supply, I mean, to be honest with you, like it's a kind of a misnomer, but most cryptos, even including Ethereum, have an infinite supply in the code, in theory. So like that's kind of that part of it. But there's also different stake derivatives of Atom, just like there is for Ethereum and most assets in the space. So you could stake Atom and you get staked Atom, and it's really secure. It's decentralized. There's no chance of it technically rugging or whatever, because they have their own blockchain. Like Stride Protocol is one of them. There's Quicksilver. There's others as well. But it's almost like all these different chains, including Kronos, which is crow.com, which is, a lot of people understand what Crow is. I mean, it's, one of the biggest centralized exchanges in crypto has its own blockchain in Cosmos, and like Atom's like readily available, and it's growing throughout their ecosystem as almost like a form of payment. It's like an acceptable good, like you can exchange it. And but yeah, I do agree there is issues. Like me personally, that's not even my biggest bag in Cosmos because of some of these concerns. But I do think that there's so many brilliant people that are like in Cosmos or will figure it out, including the community. Like it's what's so great about it. It's so communitarian that people have their own strokes for it. They're like, hey, we should do this or that. And then people vote on it and do all this. I do know that a lot of people are it's called CosmosHOSS, which is like this, it's a Rust, but it's the smart contract language that connects any chain that enables CosmosHOSS. Currently the hub does not accept it. And a lot of people have issues with it because they're like, look, all these different use cases can be leveraged with the hub if you would accept, if you would accept this as the language. And what's amazing about Cosmos is that you can have any language. We have EVM chains. We're going to have Solana chains. We're going to have anyone. Like you can have your own language. There's Rust. There's Go. There's there's going to be talks about other different languages. So it's kind of modular in the aspect of even in the future, if a new smart contract language is developed because it uses like this certain use case that we don't even know about right now, you can still be in Cosmos. So like I think the mentality is like, look, again, this isn't a sprint, this is a marathon. Everyone's looking at X's and O's in the short term. And yeah, I mean, if you're in the short game, maybe Atom isn't your best approach. Like you don't want to just buy Atom. But if you're like, look, I think Cosmos is going to have hundreds and thousands, and then eventually thousands of different app chains connected to it. It's almost like by default, Atom gains value on it. And also it can change and things like that. So I don't have any qualms with anyone that's like, I don't know any Atom, or what's the point of it, or what's this? Like everything's so exploratory right now that if anyone tells you they know exactly what the future is going to happen, they're kind of probably a narcissist. So yeah, if I was giving financial advice, I would say like, I wouldn't invest everything into Atom. You know, there are people that probably do, but you know what? Actually, I would retrace that. I've never met anyone in Cosmos that just owns Atom. Like they own everything. Like it's just like that's the whole thesis of it. We're building out this galaxy. We want everything to connect to it. So it's like, yeah, we think Atom is going to do all these different things in the future, but again, that's not even my biggest bag in Cosmos. And I don't like to think of things as you know, and everyone's financial wherewithal is different. So me personally, again, if everything went to zero, I believe in a higher power anyway. So it's like I don't view things as always money. Now, don't get me wrong. I like to think of money as time. So I asked this question to a lot of people. I'm like, hey, what's money? And they're like, oh, it's something to barter, do this and that. Like theoretically, they're correct, but I like to think as money as time. It's like this time mechanism that humans have. If you have enough time, then you buy yourself more freedom. So if you have more freedom, you could just enjoy your life more, and you can do things that you couldn't do if you're always waking up. You have to punch a clock. You have to do this until you pass away and you expire on planet Earth. So yes, time is money. You know, money is time and time is money. It's just true. It really is. There's no way around it. It always will be. It's just been a way of bartering your time on planet Earth. And if anyone ever wants to kind of watch a cool movie that kind of is low key that really no one ever talks about, is watch I think it's called In Time with Justin Timberlake. The acting's not the best, but the core principle of how that was developed and thought of is kind of really true. Really, if you run out of time, you expire, you know? So it's like, it's a thing that I like to think of as in, you know, I want more time. I want more time on planet Earth. Why do I get up and some people just stare at their shoes? They're like, I don't want to go do this. I don't want to go run. I don't want to go work out, because I'm trying to position myself physically, spiritually, mentally, everything, that I want to try to maybe make an impact on this planet or do something different than others are doing. And it's like, well, some of my neighbors probably think I'm psychopath because I'm always out working out and like doing gritty ass shit outside. And they're probably like, why is he doing that? He, you know, why is he, you know, but it's because like, I want to challenge myself. And I think that I find in this space, maybe not as a physical thing, but a lot of these engineers are challenging themselves. You know, they're challenging the capabilities of the unknown, and the people that are like, crypto's not going to work and this isn't going to work. They're going to be like, all right, I'm going to prove you wrong. You know, why do people that have nothing, they grow up in poverty, like become successful and become like one of the greatest athletes or greatest musicians? Because they have nothing. They're always trying to prove people wrong. And I think a lot of engineers, sometimes they get this monetary value and then they stop. So I'm not going to say every engineer is on the same page, but a lot of these engineers can just chill now. Like they probably have enough money that they're good, but they're always pushing for the future. So
well, look at Apple. It's a perfect example, right? Like the iPhone has been the exact same for the last almost 5 years. Like it's literally the same thing, just in a different shape. You think those engineers are interested in pushing the envelope and coming up with something new, like a web or some kind of Web3 wallet for the iPhone? Hell no. They're making 250 grand a year and getting, you know, $50,000 a year in stock options, that, you know, and they're cashing out and just riding the wave. They're quiet quitting just at a higher level. They don't want to push any technology. But then you look at like the Solana phone, and I'm, you know, I hate to bring that up. I'm not, you know, saying, you know, no offense, Cosmos. I'm not trying to bring a different thing up. Like
most people in Cosmos like Solana, by the way, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, but if you look at like the Solana phone, I think I don't remember what it's called, Saga, I think. Like I looked at it and I was like, you know, I kind of want to get rid of my iPhone now for this, right? Like it's pushing the envelope. And this is kind of the theme of this episode is, you know, like pushing the envelope of technology, and they're doing it. And it kind of makes me want to go like, well, I've had the same iPhone for the last, you know, like 5 or 6 years. And I switched from an Android because family members and FaceTime different sides of the country. It's just easier, right? Like, but now I'm kind of looking at that and I'm like, that's doing stuff that I value more than this worthless FaceTime that I use like twice a month, you know, like, so maybe you should switch, you know, and I think that's kind of the technology. And I'm going to bring this up, you know, is I think that there's a very common theme among people in crypto, And we keep saying the word, right? Like throughout the entire episode and every episode we've ever talked about, this question has been brought up. Why?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like every single one of us here always wants to know why.
Yeah.
What's going to happen next? Why, if we do this, does this happen? Why is, why are we stuck on Earth? What's in the next galaxy? You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
If you look at Elon,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a good example of that. Is he doesn't, like if you think that if Elon can get to Mars in the next 5 years, do you really think that Mars is going to be where he stops? Hell no.
Right.
He's going to go, all right, well, what's over there? What's past that? And this is a theme that's in crypto is everyone asks why and how do we make it better? How do we make it more efficient? And I think
I agree with that, Joe.
You have to have just a different brain. And to be honest with you, I think we all kind of mentally, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but like there's a reason why there's a lot of people who are on the spectrum of autism, right? Like they're into crypto because it makes sense to them. Like to me, when I found crypto, it's like, oh my God, it makes sense. Like this is why aren't you people doing this? It's so clear, right? And I think that it's just you have to at this point in time for crypto, you have to have that mentality, and eventually the sheep will come in. So just everyone, if you're sitting here listening to this, just know that you are not. And Beardy's wife had that where we're all just a little early and we're a little different. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us or we're idiots and we need to, listen to the mainstream tell us that we don't know what we're talking about. We're all just those sunflowers that bloomed a little earlier that Beardy's wife posted the video of.
Yeah.
We are idiots, Joe.
Well, yeah.
No, I mean,
we absolutely are idiots, but we're idiots in different ways.
I think you said it perfectly, Joe. Like, I think people who enter the crypto space and stay in the crypto space past like the tourist season are the people who do ask why. They are the ones who are asking those questions, having more critical thinking skills. Not to say that people who don't stay don't have those things, but it's like you have to have that type of mentality to be able to like stay in this space, is at least the way that I see it. So we ask why first, and every time we ask why, we get some more answers. We share them with as many people as we can, and we slowly get more and more people involved in this space.
I mean, hell, we made a podcast to do it.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, I mean, to even like add to your like Solana example, and my thing is not price. I usually don't do anything by price. It's more of like you said about the phone, but you also brought up the horse and buggy and Ford example, and they kind of tie that into it. Why do people build the best race cars? Like, how do they build like, just think about this. Like, how do you build the best race car?
You give a redneck a bunch of money and tell him to beat a Ferrari.
But not just that, but like, how do you actually make the best race car for the best race car driver? What do you have to do?
You build it around him and you trial and error it. You
have to beat it to crap, make it break, and if it doesn't break, then you know it's good. And that's kind of like Solana's approach. It's like, yes, and they're even doing more. I haven't really been checking into it, but I know the founder's building like a backup plan. So like, there's two networks running at once. So even if one went down, it doesn't matter. The other one has its back. And it's kind of like the philosophy of Cosmos. It's like the same thing. If like my example about if you were trying to send your data from one planet to the other and like your spaceship got hit in mid-flight, like you're good. Like it doesn't matter. Like your stuff is going to be there. It's impossible to lose it. And like Solana is kind of doing that same approach, because the issue with Solana is like, if I was a developer and I was building this financial application and it's specifically based off of time and block and needed to be accurate and fast and it can't break, well, yeah, I'm not going to go to Solana because it's stupid right now. Although it has improved with that, but I like the facet of building the best race car, because you know what? Let's just use Windows, for example. Windows used to break. It used to crash. Like, Windows gets viruses and it gets patched. And imagine if Microsoft, the people building Windows always had to go to Microsoft. This is kind of my other thing about Cosmos. Imagine if every time someone wanted to build something for Windows, they had to like hit up Bill Gates, say, hey, like I have to have your permission to do this. He was actually kind of I'm not the biggest Bill Gates fan. I think he's kind of a fake human being, but he did allow
a lizard person personally.
Yeah, I think there's something off with him mentally. I think stories will come out about him after he croaks. I mean, that's just, I think a lot of these people are not right in the head. But anyhow, he did allow Windows, the people develop Windows, to kind of just do their thing without always having to gatekeep them. And that's kind of why Windows, I remember all the different updates for Windows and why it became what it did. And Windows was very innovative. And I think a lot of these techs are like that. But yeah, like the whole thing at the end of the day, my summation and thesis of this is, like I try to live, and I've been doing a lot better job, especially this year, but just in general, like if something happened, am I going to be okay? And if I am mentally, physically, spiritually, like I'm cool. Like I can't control everything. I think people have anxiety. They're either physically not right, mentally not right. They're thinking about too much stuff that they can't control. It's like, we can't control anything. Just do your best, think about it, and just go for it. Like, and then you don't care. Like, it's like whatever happens, as long as you're happy. Like, everything kind of usually works out. People are like, oh, that person's lucky. I don't believe in luck. I think you make your own luck. You work for it. You strive for it. You're happy. You're a good person. You do good. You help others. Like, yeah, I bet you somehow something good happens for you. If you're, and the thing is in Cosmos, to kind of tie it back into it, is the fact that I was telling you about the Twitter Spaces, and you're asking the question why. You don't find Cosmos by just going on YouTube and typing like crypto in. Like, you really you have to ask yourself a lot of questions if you're real inquisitive. That's why I find that the intellectual part of most Cosmos people to be significantly higher than most ecosystems, because they have to be, because there's right now, especially for a long time, there really wasn't anything on it. Like, there was just this like thought, like this thinking, just like, these people probably back when Ethereum first was getting going, it was just an idea. It took time, Ethereum took a long time, and it's still, look what it is now. It's not that useful. It is and it isn't. It's not that good. But like the people that were helping build Ethereum were like, look, this is the problem with it. We can't do it with this Solidity contracts, this infrastructure, that infrastructure. Let's just go do our own thing. And Gavin Wood built Polkadot. They did the kind of the same structure but better. And you had all these different people in Cosmos built their own chains. And so like I'm betting on them people.
Charles Hodgkinson going off and building ADA to have like the decentralized option as well.
Exactly.
A different one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like I'm betting on these people again. Like, I bet on engineers, man. Like, the fact that there's these they're just like these artifacts and these like where I live at. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh. There's all these bridges, and they've been there since like the 1800s. Someone had to build that without technology. It's like, it was an engineer. Like, it's all math. And the fact that this space is all mathematics, and you were saying about the autistic people, a lot of them are just mathematically geniuses, right? They are socially awkward, and whatever the case may be, but these people, like, they just understand the numbers. And one of the things, again, I'll rel it back, for wrap it up, is I just look at blockchain as a decentralized accounting ledger, all numbers. Numbers never lie. It doesn't care about your feelings and all this other stuff. It's just factual. And these technologies are just factual numbers, and it's going to work. It has to work, or else I don't know what else there is to do. So, I'm cool with whatever the outcome is. I think it's going to work. Do I know it's going to work? No, I can never say that, but I think it's more than just technology. It's more about a movement, and it's the last chance for humanity to right a lot of wrongs. And I think that good always supersedes bad. There's bad actors and all that, but at the end of the day, good people, there's way more of them. Maybe they don't get publicized because it doesn't sell or whatever, but I firmly believe there's 8 billion people on the planet Earth. There's more than half of them are good people, so it's like, good always prevails at the end. And I think crypto is more of a good thing. I think it's good for humanity. So
yeah.
And tyrants that seize power, and the people are always going to take it back from them. Sorry, Grant, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just gonna say, I was gonna tie that back into like what you were talking about before, Haas, with, that we were talking about how like people are afraid of change and people are always hesitant to like the new technology. So like we saw this with the iPhone versus the regular phone. We saw this with the internet. We saw this with electricity. Um, and I actually just found out the other day, like another one that I like to throw into this now. Apparently people used to say this about the bicycle too. When the bicycle came around, people used to say that it was going to make people go crazy, make people go insane, like develop psychosis just from riding a bike. So like people will say the craziest things at the time when you don't have the information to be able to immediately disprove them. So it's like crypto is just this next thing. Everybody right now is thinking that it's not going to be anything, and then it ends up being the biggest thing that changes the direction of the human race.
I think so as well. I mean, you could just look at one of the most influential, just brilliant human beings to ever grace planet Earth was Steve Jobs, and people, they had these issues with him, and like pre-internet, pre-everything, he just was. Well, how do you explain this to people that don't get it? He's just, I just don't. Like, it's just that some people are always going to be stuck in their ways. That's just humans, like you said. I mean, I deal with it on my job, not to get like real specific into my day-to-day details of my job, is they refuse to, they'd rather call someone, wait an hour on the phone and ask a question that they could have spent 3 seconds just put in a search engine and that answer would have came up. There's always going to be those people that don't want to change. Like, I'm okay with it. It's like, that's what they're going to do. But technology it's always going to go forward. And again, like, what's new, right? Like web 2 is not new. It's outdated. It's not secure. There's vulnerabilities. And what's new? And the crypto's what's new. And I think Cosmos is even a newer part of that industry because there's no central point of failure. It's pretty much foolproof with the security posture and the tech. And it just builds the railways, the highways, the skyways, the canals, whatever you want to use the metaphor for this to excel in the future. And I think that maybe there's multiple layers, just like there's multiple layers to the internet. But I just see zero chance of IBC not working. Now, does that make you a boatload of money because you're in here now? I don't know that, but I do know that if crypto is going to be around, when you're in 20, 30 years from now, I just don't see a way that IBC is just not a part of that. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I hope you keep on using that reference that it's like the railroad system kind of blooming out across the U.S.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to explain it, even if you're trying to explain it to people.
I
kind of just went with it one day. I was actually in Florida, and it was day 3. I think it was a permissionless, and day 3 was really cool because it was all real life workers. They're basically clueless about crypto, but they're like, hey, I have this law firm and I have this real estate company, and I don't really know anything about crypto. Can you explain it to me? And I just start talking to them about everything. And that was what's so cool about Cosmos is like people would come over and say, what's osmosis? Like I was saying at the very beginning. And I knew right away they had no clue about how the tech works. So instead of me saying, oh, it's a DEX or it's this, I'm explaining it to them like they're a 4-year-old. But they understand it because I was like, hey, so-and-so, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm in this industry. So then I use that because I understand that they know about their industry, and I explain it to them like why this can help them and why it's better and what benefits they would get by using this technology. And I think there needs to be more of that. I think people are more so. At times, I do think in crypto we kind of put the cart before the horse in a sense, but I think over this, you asked me earlier about the 5 years. I think that's going to change. It's like the Steve Jobs building these computers in his garage, and they're like, well, can I get one for my house? I think that's going to be, it's the opposite. It's like we cater to all these, essentially we're all nerds, cater to all these tech nerds. Now let's get the people that have the financial wherewithal. Let's get these institutions. Let's get these companies to show them like, hey, you're using AWS. Okay, cool. It does this and that. But do you realize like all your data is just there for them to look at? Or, there's so many sort of solutions now that I'm really interested selfishly. as much as I love numbers and money and analytics, I'm more so into who's building storage solutions, who's building, things for artists, who's building like all these tools for real life people to get into the space, who's forefront of building these techs out that people, this average person that works 50 hours a week can understand it. It doesn't even need to understand it. That's what I've been spending most of my focus on. And I find a lot of that to be, in Cosmos. So that's another reason why I kind of spend my time on it.
Right on. And
Nice.
another point, maybe Grind can probably confirm or deny this, but I feel like most people get frustrated and don't understand things that are confusing to them because their partners, their bosses, their whoever talks at them rather talking to them, right? Like that is one thing that I have found, when as a boss or, as just a person, that a lot of people get frustrated and really angry and shut down, a lot sooner than, or just shut down because you don't you respect them enough to try and talk to them in some way that they understand, right? Like, Grind, I'm sure, in his professional life has probably had to explain to a husband that the way he talks, to her is he can't just tell her, this is what we're doing. You have to explain why and the reason why. And I feel like a lot of this in crypto are into why, but we don't know how to explain it in a language that other people would understand, because we understand why, but the why we understand why works. If that makes sense. Doesn't make sense to someone who's not into this space already. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
No,
it's the same in the medical field. I'm a registered nurse, so you
Yeah, Beardy, absolutely.
you can't
With the
just
medical,
speak.
yeah, super for
You have
sure.
to speak in terms they can understand. You got to kind of get to their level. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, honestly, if someone was like, how did you become what you are in this space? Because if you and I were having these conversations a couple of years ago and you were to told me like, hey, you'd have like, I don't know, 55,000 followers on Twitter and you would be helping do this and do Twitter spaces and all, I'd have thought you're mentally insane. I'd have been like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, pre crypto, I didn't even have social media. I'm a real private person.
Yeah.
I don't care about that stuff. I had a really good background of what I did before this, and I honestly don't even tell people who CosmosHOSS is. Like my family doesn't even. The only person that knows me, like really knows me, is my wife, and it's not because I have something to hide. It's just like I just like to chill. I love to do this, and I love to give back, and I think that that side of it. But another reason why I just thought of this while we're just talking right now about explaining it to people and things like that is, it was a Friday night when I don't remember, it was right around Thanksgiving time in 21. So 2021 around Thanksgiving time. This is how kind of like a boomer I was. I didn't even know what Twitter Space was. I was drinking a little bit, which I don't really drink much, but I was like, all right, I'm having a drink. And these guys were talking about Cosmos and they were just like BSing about some stuff. And at the time I probably put in like over 1,000 hours of research and they were kind of confused on some things. And it was just like four guys just talking about crypto and Cosmos. So I buzzed in and they put me up on stage and just started like just bullshitting, just talking about why stuff, like kind of how we are, but way less educated about everything, obviously, because that was a couple years ago. And that same night, honestly, I don't know, it went from like 4 or 5 of us to maybe a couple hundred or so. And during that time frame, most of call them a CEO, if you will, so people understand that. But like the founders of these different blockchains, which they're founders, they're CEOs, basically. They're honestly probably financially set, whatever. They don't need to do it. And they all just started hopping on and just talking about crypto and Cosmos and all the future and kind of how we're doing right now. And that got me, that motivated the hell out of me. I was like, holy shit, like these guys, they actually care. They're human beings. Like this is why they're doing it. You see the personal side of it. It actually pushed me to do all this stuff, like to start doing Twitter spaces and creating content and just really focusing on that side of things. And that was like my like because I'm like kind of an energy person, you know, it was like real good energy. I'm like, I'm going to just like, I never knew any of this would have happened, you know? It's like, just kind of went with it, just did it. And I wouldn't change anything about it, you know. Like I've made some bad decisions, like with different cryptos, and you know, kind of was at the top and was like, holy crap, like I could just be a ghost if I wanted to be, and lost a lot of it. And it was insane. You know, it's been a fun ride, a fun journey, but I'm not like, again, I just want to do something that's, you can say at the end of the day, like you did something about it, you know? And I think this space offers that for anyone. Like you were saying, like, oh, you could be from here or there, believe in this or believe in that. You're this color, that color. You believe in this religion, that religion. I don't believe in religion. Like you could be whoever you want to be, but also be in the game. Like you're just in it. And that's never happened before. So whether it works like financially for people or not, or if it works for me or doesn't, like, yes, I would love to one day not have to work if I didn't want to work. And that's kind of a goal, you know. It's like, hey, do I want to be 75 and still have to work every day, all day long? No, but I'm okay if I have to be, because I think, especially, don't be like sexist or anything, but like I think men were born to work. Like we have to work. If you don't work, you have no purpose. Like, because I kind of like even said this, it made me just think about something. I kind of ridicule, like, if you look at, you know, some of these older politicians and why they're doing this, why don't they just retire? Because like maybe that's like they feel like, look, if I retire, I'm probably going to pass away within a year or two. So they're like, if I keep working, it's going to keep me hungry. It's going to keep me grinding, even though they obviously need to like take a step back, especially for some of these people. But I kind of think like we're meant to work. Like I think a man was born to work. Like if you don't work, it's like, what am I doing? You know? So who knows? But I would love to be doing this the rest of my life and adding value and helping people and you know, giving back.
Yeah, I know one thing. I think I can speak for everyone in the group. The amazing reward you get from onboarding people into this industry and just helping people is one of the most. It's probably the highest level of satisfaction I felt in my life, and that's what just keeps me going.
Yeah, we had the same experience with our first when we had Rob with Digital Asset News. When he came on, we're like, I just kind of took a shot in the dark. I'm like, there's no way he's going to say yes. But he's just such a cool guy. He was like, yeah, let's do it in about 48 hours. And we're like, holy shit, now we have to prepare. And
yeah, that was wild. That was wild as hell.
But he's just hungry. He wants to help people. So that's what we're trying to do.
And
that's awesome, man. Like just do I mean, if you just, I'm gonna get emotional thinking about it. If you just do everything from the heart, it works. That's all.
You know, you've brought this up a few times that as long as you're okay mentally, physically, and spiritually, you're going to be all right. And that's kind of like a mindset that I've adopted in a different kind of a thing for me is, am I doing something that provides my soul, like it feeds my soul, right? Like I love coming on here and talking with people, and we don't get a whole lot of views. And I have the smallest Twitter following out of all of us. Like I only have like 80 something followers. But the fact that there's 80 something people who are, you know, value my opinion and are like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, and I'm helping them. It makes me feel like I'm doing something worthwhile, right? Like, and all of this started just because I, you know, decided I was talking to Rob one day and he was like, start a crypto channel, just do it. And then I, you know, DM Beardy because Beardy and I had talked on, because we're both mods on, you know, Rob's chat or Rob's group. And we, you know, brought on Grind, and it's just, the space is so rewarding. And I just,
No, it's just it's so rewarding. It all works out, man. Like, it's just it's like a random act of kindness. You never know like where that's going to take someone, you know. It's like,
and I think most people really need to, this is something else that I heard this year, and Kevin Gates said it, the rapper, is I don't discount my blessings anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and that when I heard that, I was like, holy shit. Like the profundity of that. I don't discount my blessings anymore. And I realized, like, I used to be pretty spoiled, and I used to be a kind of a fucking douche. And pardon my French.
You were young. I mean, that happens.
Yeah, but like as I get older, and now that I look back, and I'm like, I want to make up for the wrongs that I did to other people, and I want to help people. And I think that at the base of it, all of us in crypto, or like a majority of us who are here right now in the bear market trying to do this, are here for the right reasons. And I think that it's just, it's an amazing space, and it's an amazing thing that's happening. And, we get to help people, and, hopefully in the bull market, we'll have people coming here being like, hey, thank you for that. I paid off my college debt,
Right.
like, that would be the most rewarding thing for any of us. I can imagine would be like someone being like, hey, I can afford to buy a house. Like my dog has a backyard now, like something like that. And I'm getting goosebumps just like thinking about it. But
oh no, man. It's like I was saying, I was about to get emotional there. It's like, it's what it's about. And it's what's so cool about it, because you could be anywhere. Like I could be wherever, you could be wherever, doesn't matter. And until like this time of humanity, really, like we're all connected. And that's why I was saying about earlier about if everyone spoke the same language, crypto, this could have happened 100 years ago. And I think that we're such in a revolutionary time period in our life, and we've seen so much. Like we grew up, I know we're the same age. We grew up in this time where we were kind of almost like in a stone age, and then we're at this time that hopefully I get to live a long life. I mean, I would love to one day be like, that dude's gritty. He's 100 years old and he's still like doing stuff, but like think about all of it. And I think that technology will just always just keep progressing, and maybe there's civilizations and other planets, and Elon does what he says he's going to do, and he can create water and resources on Mars, because he built this like the thing that kind of reflects the sun on it. Like you never know, but it's just so much fun, and again, I just always urge people to always, like you said, don't discount your blessings. I mean, my background, I could have probably for sure played professional ball, but when I was young and I was in college, and I was always being a moper about stuff and not grateful, and like, man, never thought like, man, life is a little bit harder after you get out of college, and it's not going to be, especially when you graduate university and the real estate market crashes and there's no jobs anywhere. You maybe like think about, this is a lot of fun right now, and you're playing a kid's game, and you're playing at a very high level. Maybe just like soak it all in, And yesterday I was at this party, and there was this 19-year-old, and we were kind of just talking a little bit. And I said, if I had to give you any advice that I wish I had when I was 19, it's just surround yourself around people that are always positive and doing good and want to do good, and then you'll be good. That's all I gotta say to you. Like, and just work hard, outwork people, but just like surround yourself with people that always are in a good mood, or like, it's impossible to always be in a good mood, but you always see the best in things, as opposed to like, oh, well, why does this person have that? Or, keeping up with these other people. Like, I mean, really, you kind of have to almost be selfish in that aspect. You have to care about yourself and like make yourself feel good. What makes you drive? Like, what makes you feel good about yourself? And, I think this kind of space has done that for me. It's kind of helped give me a better outlook on life, and think about like, man, the world is actually not as bad as they say it is. And there's always going to be bad people. There's 8 billion people, but I genuinely think that most people are good people. Maybe they're distracted and lost and confused, and they allow people to get in there. Again, I think it's all about who you hang out with, who you associate with. And in this space, I think there's a lot of good people, and I just love associating with good people like yourself. So
you know what it
Awesome.
really comes down to is, this is, I've noticed, like in our group, this is something that we do a lot. We surround yourself, and I told this to my nephew last year. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your victories like they do their own. You know what I mean? Like it, and I think that that's what the crypto space is. If you look at like Vitalik, he talks very highly of a lot of projects. He's like, Solana is doing fantastic things. I think that they squashed their beef with Ada, but I'm not sure. But I haven't heard him say anything bad about them recently. So, but he and totally says great things about a lot of other projects. Like they're the ones that are celebrating their coworkers. Essentially their peers' work because it's helping. They realize that it's helping the space grow in general. It doesn't have to be Solana versus Ethereum. It's Solana and Ethereum. It's ADA and Solana. It's all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we're all on that roller coaster together. So
Yeah.
I don't like to sit on the sidelines. I never was. Like I had to kind of give you a little bit of context. Like I had higher, like more prestigious universities that I could have went to, but I probably wouldn't have started as a freshman. And I went to a school because I don't want to sit on the sidelines. I don't want to be on the bench. And I went to a Division I school and played 4 years because I visualized it that I was going to go there. I was going to outwork everyone. Maybe some of the older guys, when I got to that school, aren't going to like me at first because they're like, this dude's showing me up. But that's just the type of mindset that I have. And I think a lot of people in this space kind of share that, and they want to help out others. And I just, like I said, at the end of the day, like I'm okay if it went to zero. Like I don't want it to. I don't think it's going to, but I just have that mindset. Like I aim low, and people are like, what is your price prediction for this and that? Like I'm just cool if it goes up. Like I'm good, because if I put my money in these other things, I'm not going to make anything where I can maybe change the next generation and do all these things. And I think that this is the only vestige or the sailboat that can do that for people. And am I going to be right? I don't know. I think I am going to be right. I can never be a narcissist. I'm like, yes, it's going to go to this, but I don't know if in theory, like, let's just go down that before we wrap this up. If it doesn't, like, none of this does work, like what else is there going to do? Like what else is there going to be? Right. Like the old system doesn't work. It's broken. And
100%.
There's these amazing, brilliant, genius engineers that are building all these tools to like mitigate human error and human greed and it's human greed. And we're putting out parameters that says, hey, like if you want to be in this galaxy or this matrix or whatever you want to call it, you have to provide these, like, this is the game that you need to play. You can't change the rules. You can't, well, you know what? The Super Bowl winner was this, and now we're going to change a rule to make it first down is 11 yards, and now that team would have lost. Like, that's kind of like the system we're in now. They just can change the rules whenever they want, and it's just not working. And we need to fix it. And I think this is the only way to fix it. Whether people want to believe it or not, it's the only way. Because again, a blockchain is a decentralized accounting ledger. It's all facts. It's all numbers. 1 + 1 is 2. And it doesn't care about feelings. It doesn't care about where you're from or who you are, how much money you have, or who you know. It's about 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
Hoss, what sport did you play? Pickleball?
Baseball.
Oh, I figured you were a football player. I'm sorry.
I did play all the sports in high school, but I got concussions, and I'm like, do I want to keep beating my head or play a sport that I'm like? It's crazy. I was really good at baseball, and I never cared about baseball. It was just like naturally good because I played all sports. And once I turned to junior high school, I was like, I'm done playing football, and I'm just going to focus on basketball and baseball, but really, really start to actually do the work for baseball. And it was the best decision I made. I met some of the greatest people in my life. I played at a high level, hit home runs against a bunch of guys that played for professional. My roommate played in the league for like 12 years. It was a lot of fun. I mean, again, if I had to look back and like, why didn't you play at the next level? Yeah, I had some injuries, but I think my injuries were based off of me not taking care of myself and not being grateful. I think bad things happen to people that aren't grateful for life. I think life is like the most fascinating thing if you think about it. Like, why does it start? Why did we start? Why did we do this? Why? Like, there's some things that are just unknown. And I think people that don't think there's some sort of greater hierarchy, to me, I don't understand it. I can never understand it. So I just live like my life like that. Like, I'm 37. If something happened to me, I want people to be like, he lived a pretty good life. It's like that's how I live. So
Yeah,
Nice.
sorry. Yeah, the Vikings wanted a piece of me, Hoss, but I had to turn it down. For real though, I played against. Well, you might know Marcus Sherrills played for the Vikes, and then I used to play against his brother in high school, but I was more of a bench warmer, so I got that going for me.
No, but I think people that played sports, even if you weren't even that good at sports, but you were on the team, like you have to have some sort of discipline. And I think discipline, especially in this space, is very important because I could get up and just, again, if you guys know Dave, I think it's Goggins or whatever. He's
David Goggins,
yeah. I mean, he says it even in his space. Like, you know how many times I wake up and stare at my shoes for a half hour, but then I get them on and I go for like a 10-mile run or 30-mile run. He's like, because no one else is going to do it. Like it's the way it is. Like there's winners and losers, and like some people want to keep pushing the envelope. And I think a lot of people in technology always have that mindset. Maybe they don't lift weights and they go for 50-mile runs, but they're just like nonstop staring at this computer and creating like magic, you know? And it's like, people used to say it's all magic money. It's because it technically is. It's magic. Like this stuff is like the fact that you and I can do any of this right now is in my mind is kind of like magical. So, yeah. I mean, I don't really know what else to say except for I really enjoyed this conversation. It was I needed like way more water than I have, but it's just it's been so much fun, and as you can tell, I'm like super passionate, and I just want everyone to succeed. Like I don't want anyone not to succeed, and I think go ahead.
If you watch the Andrew Huberman podcast, we got science behind us because, like, if you talk to people who have won the Super Bowl or whatever. Like Deion Sanders talked about how big of a letdown it was when he won the Super Bowl. Afterwards, he's driving his car. But really, what the dopamine hit is like from the process when you always have to have something to strive for.
Have you guys heard the quote? "You're not human beings having a spiritual experience. You are spiritual beings having a human experience."
That's a good one. I mean, I think it's true. I mean, I can get all philosophical and just data driven and just whatever you want to get, but there's something beyond our imagination. So
yeah.
And if you don't think like that, I'm not saying you're an idiot, but like I just don't understand it because you're probably not that grateful for anything. Or I urge people to try to find the best in every scenario and situation because it can always be worse. And you know, I've met a lot of people, some of my best friends, how some of the people I met when I met my wife aren't even alive anymore because they went down that dark path. They didn't believe in anything. They just like were mad about stuff and angry at the world for whatever reason. Like, I don't get it, you know, and I'm not saying I had everything. Like I've worked for most of the things that I've had. I wasn't given anything. No one spoon fed me, but I look at it like, man, like I think that everyone, it would be a better world if people just found the good in things and just like thought, man, life is pretty cool. Like it's pretty amazing. Like the fact that I'm even here right now doing any of this, the fact that I can, if I wanted to complain about something, I can. And like, you know, it's an amazing thing and people take for granted. And, you know, I think, you know, when you're younger, you always take everything for granted. You think you're invincible, but as you get older, you get to experience more and do things more. And I think, again, like this is tied into crypto. I think it's the last chance for most people to get more skin in the game, to get more access to time on planet Earth and more freedom. And as you know, I'm going to do it. Like I'm going to go for it. I want to be doing this the rest of my life and adding value to this space. And however way I can, that's my goal and my prerogative.
Joby,
Same, man. Same.
Joby's going to like this. It is kind of magic. I pushed a few buttons on my laptop last night and a burrito showed up at my doorstep.
It's true. Like it's crazy.
Nice, weird.
Hey, you know what? DoorDash comes in real clutch if you're in California about 10 o'clock at night. If you, never mind. We're not going to go into what
we better wrap it up or you're not going to be able to upload it. It'll be too long.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the old days when you needed like CD1 and CD2, you know?
So everyone, if you're watching, I'm sure you follow CosmosHOSS, but this is his Twitter. We have Joby's Twitter, Brian's Twitter.
Hello.
Beardy's Twitter. And if you guys do get a chance, go and check out Extortion 17. That's my buddy Andrew. He was a SEAL. If you go to his Instagram page, he's a spec operator, and you can see kind of the foundations you can donate to. But short of that, we are going to. Oh no, I left our chat open. Oh well, there's nothing in there that no one can't see. Anyways, so that's it. Thank you so much for coming on, man. We'd love to have you on again, and maybe we can do a spaces one day.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hoss, that was fantastic, man.
Appreciate it. I always try to bring my A effort. You know what I mean? Like that's what I do. I just speak from the heart. You know, that's all I urge people to do. Try to do everything from the heart. That's all.
Well, you know, that's kind of what this show is we don't really care if we don't ever achieve the level of, like, you know, the shill accounts that on YouTube and whatever and Twitter. Like we've always said from the beginning, we're never going to be those guys. We don't want the sponsors. We won't ever tell you guys to look at something that we don't personally use or we haven't like personally tried. You know, we would rather the people who want to, you know, learn come to us. We don't care about the tourists and the short-term people. We care about them, that we want to make sure that they don't get Mashinsky 2.0 and FTX 2.0 in the next bull run. So that's the whole purpose of the show. If we can help one person not get their entire funds stolen, you know, like their life savings that they put into the next bull run that they decide, and whatever fucking Pepe coin that they're going to dump in their exchanges and somehow make a whole bunch of money on it, like they keep it, you know, because people are going to do degen stuff in the next bull run, right? Like we already know what's going to happen because we were those people once, right? Like, let's be honest, we know from experience. Rob talks about it all the time, you know, and that Rob had said from Digital Asset that this is going to be his, you know, potentially his last bull run, or he's going to sell 80%, then he's just going to disappear. When he does, he's not going to come on and talk to you guys. He's going to have a video that's going to say like, hey, I sold 80% of my crypto, and he's going to upload it like every 2 weeks and be like, you should take some profits. Don't forget to take profits. That's what we want to be in the next bull run, you know, like making sure that people do it right and don't get screwed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like the thing that I would urge you guys to do is just keep reminding people to the journal things and have goals set. You know, that's a good approach to just life in general. But, you know, in this space, because I mean, it happens to all of us. It even happened to me a little bit. You get this euphoric that it's just never going to go down, or it's not going to retrace. And just have goals. Like, all right, I have this token here. I have 100%. If it goes up this much, I'm going to sell this percent. I'm going to sell this percent. And like you said, the 80-20 thing, have goals, because if you don't, we're humans. We're all emotional, and you're going to make bad decisions. Like the worst things you could ever do in life is make really important decisions when you're either high or low. Like you're just emotional. You need to be, you have to look at, if you want to win at like investing or whatever, I mean, really life in general is to just be analytically. That's why accountants usually do real well in life, because they try to take out emotion. It's just factual. And like me, when people want to have debates, I love debates. I think it's the way our country was built, was to have debates. And the people that don't want to have debates or use emotion, I'm not interested. It needs to be factual, statistically, or whatever. Show me why you feel that way. I don't care how you feel. I'm great you feel that way, but show me why you feel that way. If it's not factual based, then I'm not interested. Even though maybe your emotion, it has merit to it, but I want stuff to be factual. And I think if you treat this space to be factual and use numbers and statistical, just like stat based, you'll probably have a better chance than just like riding the ups and downs of the waves, so to speak, because it's going to drive you insane if not.
If you have a time horizon that's longer than, you know, a couple of days, people, you know, a lot of people came in, they're like, okay, I put in $100, when do I get my million? You know, like why not roll up? You know, if you have a time horizon and believe in the projects, then, you know, everything is just kind of kosher. Everything just works out.
And the last point that I'll leave on is the best way to make money in crypto is to work in crypto. Find a niche it's grown exponentially. There's not enough help. You know, I did it on accident. I mean, I was obviously, hopefully you can tell that I'm passionate. I want to help people, but I'm really hungry. I strive for, I don't want to say greatness, but I strive to be a better version of myself as much as I humanly possibly can. And I use that same mentality to keep driving for more knowledge, and it's impossible to know everything. So if you are pretty knowledgeable and you can speak, or you have an art skill or whatever sort of skills, everyone has a skill set. Like, you guys are better at something than I am. I'm better at something than you are. Like, use that skill that you have, whatever it is. I guarantee you can find a way in the space to use that skill to like empower people, to improve it. But you have to not expect anything. You have to do it because you want to be a kind person and you want to help others. If you have that mindset, no matter what, you're going to succeed. So like, just use that same drive. Now, if you don't have that mentality, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're not going to win at the game of life if you have that mentality. So
No doubt.
Yeah.
Amen.
Nice.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Haas.
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, please follow all of the gentlemen's. We plugged their Twitters, but we'll do our banner one more time. Thanks so much for coming on, man. Everyone, go outside, touch some grass, learn to be grateful if you're not, and I don't know, go read a new book or talk to a stranger and hear their life story or something, you know?
Cheers, man. This will probably be your longest podcast ever. And maybe it won't, but if anyone has this kind of stamina, amen, man. You're amazing. You got stamina. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. And we will talk to you soon. Everyone, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk later. Have a great one.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.